Mr. Ballone, thank you for this.
Ready?
Welcome to the Marlboro Township Board of Ed meeting, June 20th, 2023. Ben, roll call, please.
Sure. Good evening, everybody.
Evening.
Mrs. Jankowski? Here. Mr. Olonsky?
Here.
Mrs. Mendez?
Here.
Mr. Petruno? Mrs. Piernick?
Here.
Mrs. Rosato?
Here.
Mrs. Shrem?
Here.
Mrs. Seward?
Here.
And Mrs. Amster?
Here. Sunshine Law. Be advised that this meeting is being held in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231 PL, 1975 Sunshine Law, and that adequate notice of the date, time, and agenda has been sent to the Asbury Park Press and the Star Ledger and has been posted and filed with the Marlboro Township Clerk. Copies have also been sent to each district school and other area newspapers in accordance with the law. I will not read in full, but I will draw your attention to the statement of videotaping a public portion of Board of Education meetings, public's comment section, and no smoking on school grounds. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Ballone, student recognition.
Thank you. Good evening. Marlboro Memorial Middle School, Music in the Parks Festival. The Marlboro Memorial Music Department just returned from an unbelievably successful Music in the Parks Festival at Dorney Park in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Mr. Goley, Mrs. Poole, and Mrs. Dokis brought 3 ensembles, the Monarch Wind Symphony, Royal Airs, and Griffin Orchestra. All 3 ensembles were awarded first place in their category and a rating of superior. In addition, Memorial took home every other musical award in the festival. Best Overall Choir, Band and Orchestra, Best Accompanist Award for 7th grader Kenneth Sun, as well as the coveted Esprit de Corps Award. It was a complete sweep and an amazing day for all. Student impact. Throughout the month of May, MTPS highlighted the character pillar of digital citizenship. Students and staff learned about the importance of safe and responsible use of technology. We have a short video for you in usual fashion.
As a part of this month's character pillar, classes at the Early Learning Center attended a Google Meet session hosted by 5th grade Student Council students. They read The Couch Potato by Jory John and Pete Oswald and discussed their favorite outdoor summer activities with the school year coming to a close. They also started the Screen-Free Summer Challenge to encourage families to balance the use of technology heading into the summer. At the start of the next school year, they can hand in their challenge to be entered into a raffle. On May 18th, Dugan Elementary took part in Outdoor Classroom Day. Outdoor Classroom Day is a nationwide initiative to take learning outdoors and take a break from technology. It was a great day to participate in digital detox as students head into the summer and enjoy the nice weather.
Okay, we have some artwork that we would like to recognize from Mrs. Farrington's art classes at Marlboro Middle School. Both 7th grade creative arts students as well as 8th grade general art students studied portraiture during the second semester. The work displayed shows the many ways we can artistically create portraits. 7th grade creative arts classes studied classic portraiture from the Renaissance as well as contemporary artists such as Chuck Close and Kehinde Wiley in their explorations. Next, they learned ways to accurately draw facial features. To create the pieces on display, students chose an artist on style we studied as inspiration. Their artwork shows the culmination of their efforts. 8th grade general arts students, on the other hand, learned how to create a digital portrait using Google Drawing. They chose a celebrity they admired and crafted their portrait using digital tools.
Executive session resolution. Be it resolved that in accordance with the provisions of the Public Meetings Act, the Marlboro Township Board of Education shall conduct a closed executive session pursuant to the exception prescribed by NJSA 10-4-12 for the purpose of discussing personnel matters and security matters. It is anticipated that the length of time of this executive session will be about 45 minutes and that action will be taken in public after the executive session. Be it further resolved that the minutes of the executive session will be released when the need for confidentiality in accordance with NJSA 10-4-12 no longer applies. Do I have a second? Jessica, any discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? Carries. Thank you.
says mute, oh, where it says mute.
Okay. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, me too. You mean this?
Hold this button down until like the green, and then give it a couple seconds.
Vin, roll call.
Mrs. Jankowski,
Here.
Mr. Lalansky,
Here.
Mrs. Mendez,
Here.
Mrs. Piernick,
Here.
Mrs. Rosado,
Here.
Mrs. Shrem,
Here.
Mrs. Seward,
Here.
and Mrs. Amster.
Here. Vin, school bus driver and building maintenance personnel, motor vehicle abstracts.
Yep, all abstracts have been run and all have privileges in good standing.
Before we go through the report on anti-bullying Bill of Rights, I do have two announcements. We had graduation last Friday, so congratulations to the 2023 graduates from both Memorial and middle school. It was an excellent event at Brookdale, and I heard it rained a lot. We were inside, so thank God it was at Brookdale. Our graduates have 10 lessons to change the world, so they were all given that this week. Graduates out there, if you have not received your 10 lessons, please see your principal and you can get that. Board members, you also have them as well. The second announcement I'd like to share with all of you over the course of the last few days, and this will continue on this week until students, right before students leave. We had talked about an initiative that we'd like to continue over the course of the next few years, getting to talk to students, understand what struggles they're having in their school, socially, academically. So I'm proud to mention that I was able to get to several schools over the course of the last few days. We started here at Memorial, and then today, that was yesterday. Today I saw middle students, Dugan students, Robertsville students, and our youngest students at the Early Learning Center. And we sat in their cafeteria and had a very nice conversation about being kind and some of the struggles they might have. One of the biggest struggles they had was the monkey bars out on the playground. So Mr. Perno, thank you for listening to them with us. And this was our first effort in really getting to understand our entire school community, and I believe starting with our students who have a very strong voice and a vested interest in their school district. I wanted to speak with them first. I plan to be speaking to more students and a wider range of students as next year begins, but this was our first interviews with them, and tomorrow we'll conclude with the other schools. So that's the second announcement. In terms of report on Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights Act, which actually dovetails into our student meetings pretty nicely. Beginning with the September 2011-2012 school year, our school district has conscientiously implemented the requirements found in the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights Act by establishing and implementing and assessing HIB programs. We have also provided training to staff and students, and the Board of Education approved HIB policy, which is currently under active revision by the policy committee, which I'm sure we'll hear in a little bit. Board of Education, you have received our scores, and if you recall, in the fall, we reported out our scores from the 21-22 school year, because that's what we had at that point. And what you have now in front of you are those same scores, but they've now been accepted by the New Jersey Department of Education. So nothing has changed per se in terms of our scores that were reported to you in the fall. This is just, we're required to share this with you after the New Jersey Department of Education accepts our scores. So they have now accepted them, and this coming fall you'll receive the HIB scores for this school year that is just ending. That's all I have.
Presentation, policy updates. Val.
Good evening, everybody. I'll stand over here so my back isn't to that side of the room. I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. I know there's a lot of different opinions out here, so we're happy to hear them. We're going to do this as a presentation. Some of you were here in that first session when we went through our first read. We felt that a presentation would be something that would be good for everybody to talk through, to see the changes, to really understand that. Not every school board does a presentation for every single policy, but we felt that for open communication, transparency, and just for you all to understand the changes, we wanted to do it this way so that we respect everybody's opinion. So I'll start out. So our first read was in May. This is the second reading today. A lot of people gave us some feedback on certain words or things like that, and so we did take a lot of that into account when we made these changes. So I have the screenshot there of the policy itself, but you all had it. It was at the door printed for you. It's the same exact thing that if you grabbed it at the front, you should have. So in this, the first section was a family-centered approach. So what I did was, with the policy committee, we added on the right just some key points to call out to everybody. And so the first thing that we're going to call out is that we believe that because Marlboro Public School District is a pre-K through 8 district, with no high school, the board believes that greater parental involvement is important and required because of the age and maturity level of the student body. Obviously, the school district shall not discriminate against any pupil based upon gender identity and or the pupil's transgender status or for any other reason. We have here another bullet that what will happen if the student feels that they want to transition, a school counselor will discuss and collaborate with the student first before discussing a student's gender nonconformity or transgender status with the student's parent or guardian. That discussion will address any concerns that the child might have about that parental notification, and it will also discuss the process by which such notification shall occur, including but not limited to whether the student wishes to be given the opportunity first to notify the parent or guardian. So we added a collaborative approach here that they're going to have the discussion with the student, see how the student feels, have the conversation first. Moving on to that, still same page, where there are concerns about disclosure to the parent or guardian, maybe posing a danger to the health or safety of the pupil, the administration, in consultation with the school counselor, school psychologists, and other district professionals, shall determine the appropriate course of action. So nothing will happen at that point in time if they've identified that it would put the child at risk. Measures may include the facilitation of counseling and other resources for the student and the student's family to facilitate the family's support of the student's transgender status. In the event that the parent or guardian objects to the minor student's name and or pronoun change request, the superintendent or designee should consult the board attorney regarding the minor student's and family's civil rights. Where there is a disagreement between the family and the student, the administration will consult with the student and the parent or guardian and develop a plan for how the student will be referred to at school, including the pupil's name and or choice of pronouns. The school will issue documentation for a transgender student, such as identification cards, in accordance with the plan developed by the school, the student, and the parent and guardian, that family-centered approach. A transgender student shall be allowed to dress in accordance with the student's gender identity. Now in the section that you have there for a safe and supportive environment, again, you have exactly what's here on the screen. The school district shall take the following steps to establish and maintain a non-discriminatory environment for all students, including transgender or our transitioning students. Student dress codes should not be enforced more strictly for transgender and gender non-conforming students than for others. The school district will honor and recognize a student's asserted gender identity based upon the family-centered approach. The school district shall not discriminate against any student based upon gender identity and/or the pupil's transgender status, and shall not require any documentation or evidence in any form, including diagnosis, treatment, or legal name change, right? To identify, to make sure that the child can go by whatever that transgender status or gender status that they'd like to have in place. Now, in the section you have in front of you under confidentiality and privacy, school staff members may not disclose information that may reveal a student's transgender status except as allowed by law and in accordance with the wishes of the parent, guardian, and the student. The school district may keep confidential a current, new, or prospective student's transgender status in accordance with the wishes of the parent, guardian, and the student. Under harassment, intimidation, or bullying legal requirements, parents and guardians are entitled to know the nature of the investigation, whether the district found evidence of harassment, intimidation, or bullying, or whether disciplinary action was imposed or services provided to address the harassment, intimidation, or bullying. Mr. Ballone had talked about harassment, intimidation, or bullying. There's a policy in place for that, and that's where we're also referencing pieces of that. Under the section for school records, in accordance with the plan developed in consultation with the student and the student's parent or guardian, if a student has expressed a preference to be called by a name other than their birth name, permanent student records containing the student's birth name may be kept in a separate confidential file. This file should only be shared with appropriate school staff members after consultation with the student and parent or guardian. If the student has previously been known at school or in school records by a birth name, the principal or designee should direct school staff members to use the student's chosen name and not the student's birth name, if requested by the parent, guardian, and student. To ensure consistency among teachers, school administrators, substitute teachers, and other school staff members, every effort should be made to update student education records with the student's chosen name and gender pronouns consistent with the student's gender identity and expression, and not circulate records with the student's birth name in accordance with the plan developed in consultation with the student and parent or guardian. Now we're under this section of activities. The school district shall provide transgender students with the same opportunities to participate in physical education as other students in accordance with their gender identity. Permit a transgender student to participate in gender-segregated school activities in accordance with the student's gender identity. Permit and support the formation of student clubs or programs regarding issues related to lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer questioning LGBTQ youth, and offer support in the creation of peer-led educational groups. And facilities. The principal or designee should consult with the student and the student's parent or guardian to develop a plan for the student's use of facilities. The plan may allow for the student to access restrooms, locker rooms, and changing facilities in accordance with their gender identity, and for involvement in various school programs and activities. Alternatively, the plan may allow for the student to use a private facility, such as a unisex facility or the nurse's restroom, should they feel uncomfortable. Non-transgender students should also be afforded the option to use a private facility, such as a unisex facility or the nurse's restroom, should they feel uncomfortable. And here on the last page that you all have is the legal authority. This just cites some statutes and laws and where some of this guidance came from. And so I thank you all for coming out. I know now we're going to move to, I'll turn it over to Kathleen.
Pursuant to Policy 0167, I'm limiting public participation to 1 hour for each public participation section of the agenda. 3 minutes per person will be allotted. There will be no follow-up questions, no back and forths, and the board will respond to public comments after the hour.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Amster. I have 22 signed up for the first public comment and 28 signed up for the second public comment, so we'll try our best to get through everyone. So first up is Shamoon Siddipthi. Yeah, sorry.
Good evening, Mr. Balone, board, parents. A few months ago, I had come asking if the Muslims can ask to get the day of Eid off, which is our annual celebration. And it seems that the board has considered it, and I saw on the calendar that it in fact is off. So I wanted to thank you, Mr. Balone. Thank you, board, for making that happen. So this continues to affirm that Marlboro's the right place for us to be. And I brought two other community members that would like to say something as well.
Hello. Thank you, board members, for letting Eid be off. I appreciate this a lot. Now I can go to Eid without worrying about missing tests or graded assignments. And now my sister will speak. Thank you.
Good evening, board members. My name is Niseba. I'm glad that Eid is off.
So before I leave, I have some bad news. I recently lost my job at the calendar factory, and all I did was take a day off. Thank you.
So next up to speak, Lauren Palea.
Hello, board, everyone. My name is Lauren. As a queer person growing up in Marlboro, I never once had to question if I had a space here, never once had a question if I was safe here, and I didn't come out until I was in high school, the same high school you worked at, went to the same church that you guys worked at. I sang so many people in this room, and I like to think of us as a community, and I think that's something that's really, really special, growing up around queer teachers from middle school, queer clubs, everything, and I never once had to question whether or not I was safe. And that is something not a lot of people around the country have, which I think is amazing. I got to find myself in a way that every student deserves to in their own time. And right now, standing before this, what I think is a community, I just want to say what is proposed is wonderful in so many ways. I think it's so great that we're giving a space for trans kids, but forcing them to be out is so dangerous. What we're proposing to do would take all of that away from them. Their experience to find this all in due time would take so much away from them. What you're proposing to do would rob trans and queer youth of such a vital part of their experiences as trans and queer individuals. What we're proposing to do could quite literally kill them, and that is not an exaggeration. Students have very, very delicate relationships with their teachers now more than ever before. Teachers are expected to quite literally lay themselves on the line of fire for these students. While they sit in dark corners in complete silence, they trust these teachers. My teachers are in this room. I trusted them with my life. And we're gonna break that trust. We're gonna shatter that trust. It's part of our experience. Our friends know something that our parents don't. Our teachers know something that our friends don't. And our parents know something that everybody else in the world doesn't have. And that is something that will all come in due time. And this cultural war doesn't belong in this room. I sat here as these people are literally calling us these people, as men in the back shouted "Hail Hitler" as a joke. This is a cultural war that doesn't belong in this room, and quite frankly, it's very, very alarming. And we would just be fueling that hate. This conversation does not belong here. I want to keep our children safe by using the language and all of the information that you've proposed, but not forcing them to be out, to keep their best interest in mind, to have visibility, to undergo things that will actually implement a safer environment for them, like promoting them within visibility, safer ways to adjust their bodies to where they're comfortable. We're asking to call a child by another name, by another pronoun, like we do since I was in first grade, which was very, very long time ago. I just want to ask you to please let kids like me grow up, be safe and happy. Let us cherish our memories here in Marlboro, want to raise our children here, because I would love to do the same thing. Just please, please keep our trans kids safe. Thank you.
Okay, next up, I apologize if I mispronounce, Elsa Monron, 8 Taylor Road.
Good evening, everyone. I am here as a liaison to the Republican Party of Marlboro. And I just have to express a concern about grown-up people trying to tell young people that they are supposed to decide on some agenda that has been sold to them on TV and in the classroom, and that they make choices as that and without parental concern. So I pray the rosary, and I really ask God to come upon everybody's mind and heart, and for you to really realize that we have to respect each other as God made us, and that we have to give our parents the grace to raise their children as God wanted us to raise them. And so I am very concerned, and I appreciate and those people who have a different take on the matter, but I think that they have to keep that to themselves, just as we are forced to keep our own idea of our religion to ourselves, because we're supposed to be in a public forum where the agendas are to change the way that tradition works well for society. And so I hope that that is well understood by everybody, and that I've expressed something that needed to be said, and God bless everybody.
Next, Judy Bacon.
As people of faith and members of the United Church of Christ, we hold fast to God's command to love our neighbors. Our transgender and non-binary adults and youth neighbors in Christ are under attack by legislatures, school boards, and media across the country. It is our responsibility as people of faith to raise our voices in support of safety, justice, and equity for trans and non-binary people everywhere. In this room, we share common ground. We all want our children's safety, emotional and physical well-being, and eventual flourishing as successful adults. We want our children to be safe at school, where they spend so much of their young lives. As for gender identity and sexual orientation, the research and science is illuminating. Adolescents navigate questions of gender identity and sexual orientation before or during puberty. Sometimes the discovery is quick and self-evident, more often it's confusing. Supportive parents with strong bonds of trust with their children are crucial sources of understanding and guidance, but not all children are blessed with supportive, nurturing home environments. Sometimes, for any number of reasons, parents are disparaging, hostile, or even dangerous in their rejection of their child's questions, even the child themselves. Transgender and queer youth without support are far more likely to show poor mental health, self-injure, and develop suicidal ideation. Your proposal, if adopted, will remove a crucial safety net from the students. Informing parents against the students' wishes could cause harm. There have been too many tragedies. Suicide is an epidemic among the LGBTQIA+ youth. Sometimes school provides the only safe harbor a student has. Jesus said, "I came that you may have life and have it abundantly." As the Council of Conference Ministries of the UCC has written, the lives of trans and non-binary people are precious. They are God's beloved children, our siblings, created, like all of us, for a free life from hatred and discrimination. The church cannot be silent while our trans and non-binary youth and their parents are subjected to abuse and exposed to public defamation. As leaders of the United Church of Christ, we want every person of transgender and non-binary experience to know this. You are beloved by God. No earthly power can separate you from God's love. God created you perfectly. Your gender identity or expression is God's gift to you and to the world. Thank you.
Okay, next up, Claire Wang.
Good evening. My name is Claire Wang, and I grew up in Marlboro. I attended Robertsville, Esher Holmes, and Marlboro Memorial. I have fond memories of the time I spent in these schools, and I'm angry that members of the Board of Education want to deny transgender students the safety and respect that I enjoyed. I'm not trans, but I'm queer, and I began to realize this at 13, very soon after graduating from middle school. I had a hard time understanding my feelings and accepting this part of myself, and it would have been much more terrifying if I also had to worry about my parents finding out. I wish all parents of trans and gender non-conforming kids were supportive, but this is unfortunately not the case. If a student feels safe talking to their parents about their gender identity, they can do that on their own terms, and there is no need for the school to be involved. If a student does not feel safe doing so, this policy forces them to choose between hiding their gender and being constantly misgendered at school and risking their safety at home. Additionally, all children are treated as a certain gender from birth. When they're comfortable with this, we don't tell them that they're too young to know that. So children who question or reject their assigned gender should be given the same benefit of the doubt. Since no one else can truly know how they feel, students are the only ones who can determine their gender identities. Therefore, there is no reason for anyone else to dictate what they should be called and what gender they should be treated as. Doing so violates their rights and makes school a hostile environment for them. The note at the top of the policy says that the edits are intended to create greater parental involvement in these important decisions. If you're a parent who wants to be involved in your child's important decisions, please make sure they know that they can talk to you about anything, and that you accept them for who they are and whoever they will grow up to be. If all you want to do is control them, that's not love, it's abuse. Thank you.
Next, Bianca Nicolescu.
Good evening, everyone, and happy Pride Month. My name is Bianca, and I'm an aspiring educator studying math education and women's gender and sexuality studies at the College of New Jersey. I stand before you today to urge the board not to adopt the policy regarding transgender students. Though the Board of Education notes being committed to providing a safe, supportive, and inclusive learning environment, I argue that this policy accomplishes the opposite goal of making transgender students feel safe, supported, and included in their learning environment. Adding to the existing stigma and discrimination surrounding the LGBTQIA+ community, it only places our transgender youth at greater risk for bullying, depression, and suicide. The policy states that the district will notify a student's parent or guardian of the student's change in gender identity or expression except where there is a reason to believe that doing so would pose a danger to the health and safety of the pupil. While this phrasing appears to be considerate of extenuating circumstances, on the surface level, this is in fact not the case. This transforms classrooms into spaces where transgender students do not feel safe and feel as if they must hide their identity. In addition, it places teachers in the position where they must police their students in order to keep their jobs. A student's identity is a private matter, And the truth is that our education system has no business trying to intervene or control this personal space. This bill is framed around a family-centered approach, but it actually infringes on the rights of our children, namely their right to privacy, their right to feel safe at school, and to speak with their teachers and classmates openly. According to this policy, students who out themselves will collaborate with a school counselor about whether or not the student wishes to be given the opportunity to notify the parent or guardian first. However, this assumes that the most ideal situation where a student would be comfortable speaking with their guidance counselor in the first place. In addition, the policy notes that in the event that a parent or guardian objects to the minor student's name and or pronoun change request, they will work with the school administration to develop a plan for how the student will be referred to at school. This provides no guarantee that a school will continue to support the student, especially that the board is particularly concerned about the student's status as a minor. The word minors diminishes people's perception of the student's self-agency. This makes it less likely that students will be granted the power to have the final say on how they choose to identify. As stated in the policy, gender-based policies, rules, and practices can have the effect of marginalizing, stigmatizing, and excluding students. This is exactly why this action is discriminatory and cannot be taken upon. It is unacceptable that we have to be talking about this as a progressive state as New Jersey. So I urge you to reconsider your decision on taking this action. Thank you.
Timadoro.
Next, Sharon Steinhorn.
Good evening. My name is Sharon Steinhorn, and I am a resident of Marlboro and a voter in this school district. I'm testifying tonight on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Monmouth County. The League of Women Voters has a long history of advocating for the rights, health, and education of children. Defending our democracy and ending discrimination against the LGBTQ+ community go hand in hand. We are gravely concerned with proposed policies that put students' safety and mental health at risk and violate New Jersey's law against discrimination. Public schools are a cornerstone of democracy, and New Jersey should strive to ensure our schools are safe, inclusive, and welcoming to all. Proposals like these are causing extreme political polarization and are manufactured to divide our communities and increase distrust in public education and civic engagement. Outing children puts them at risk for bullying, harassment, and discrimination. It makes them more vulnerable to self-harm and suicide. Despite arguments otherwise, numerous studies and data show that forced outing to parents is harmful, not helpful, to LGBTQ+ youth. And here's the bottom line. If a child is not sharing information about their sexuality or gender identity with their caregivers, those grown-ups should be concentrating on the environment they're fostering within their four walls of their own home instead of attacking and blaming the school where the child might feel safer. It is important to note that this is not a standalone policy, but part of a concentrated effort to undermine public education. In addition to attacks on LGBTQ+ student rights, the campaign includes book bans, attacks on sexual education, and attempts to rewrite American history by prohibiting accurate and necessary conversations about race and equity. The League of Women Voters cannot stand by while a small minority uses our classrooms as political battlegrounds at the expense of our students and our country's future. This is also an attack on public school educators and has served to drive highly trained, experienced teachers out of the field. It is time to say no to these attacks, time to support our educators and stand up for our children. And we urge this Board of Education to reject the proposals under consideration tonight. And I'm going to take my 20 seconds left to say that forget the League for a minute, and as a parent of a gay son who came out 40+ years ago, yes, I'm that old, and he is highly educated, and I thank God that he didn't have to come out until he was ready. And I also have 3 transgender relatives, and they have come out in their own time. Nobody had to out them.
Next, CJ Healy.
Hi, my name's CJ. I went to Dugan and then Marlboro Middle School, and I work with kids at this point. I'm not going to say where for the safety of the students, but I do work with trans kids. And I also work at an organization that advocates for LGBTQ youth, not in New Jersey, in a different state. And I remember after a particular moment where the trans kid came out to one of my coworkers and he looked at me and said, "Oh, the gay one, go talk to, make sure that they're okay." And I said, "Of course, I would love to," and had a very lovely conversation with this youth who happens to be in foster care. And I was so scared because I didn't know what was going to happen to them, because those are two of the main risks for suicide, being in foster care, and being trans. And I was terrified. And I went to my boss at the organization I work for that advocates for LGBT youth, and they told me of the 3 factors that keep kids from committing suicide, trans kids. One is having leadership in their community. It is so important for trans kids to feel like they can step up and take a star role in their communities and make sure that they are heard. And policies like this that would require them to be outed to their parents take away that leadership role. It takes away their ability to feel like they can lead. The second one is feeling like they are members of their community. How can you feel like you're a member of community if you're not even yourself? I'm forgetting the third one because I didn't write this down, but it's kind of similar within that same vein. I really do appreciate a lot of this policy, and I understand that a lot of changes have been made that I personally agree with. The issue is who is sitting there and deciding what is dangerous for the children, what is danger. We cannot define danger. Danger can be kicking out, danger can be abusive relationship with a parent, danger can also just be a lot of people knowing information that you don't want them to know, which breaks trust between parent and child, which is one of the most important things that a parent can have with a child. I know that I was outed, and it was a horrific experience, and it takes years to recover from it and to build the trust with your parents that is required to feel safe in your home again. It is required that trans youth feel safe in their home because they will not feel safe in their country. Allow them to feel safe in New Jersey.
Next up, Oliver, I apologize if I mispronounce Melbook or Melnook.
Good evening. My name is Oliver Melrook. I am a resident of Marlboro. I was once a student in the Marlboro education system, and now I'm currently in college to become a teacher myself. I am also transgender. I have known I wasn't born in the right body since I was in 5th grade, when I would hate that people would call me by my dead name and my body began to grow. Unfortunately, the information about gender identity was not as widespread as it is today, and just like 73% of the current transgender youth, I did not come from an accepting family, nor did I feel as though I could communicate what I was feeling to counselors or teachers in a school, as I felt as though it would come back to my parents. This sadly led me to paths where I would go to what was and still is a dangerous place known as the internet. I was there, and while there was a lot of helpful information and those who felt as hidden as me, there were others who would take advantage of me due to my naivety and innocence. As educators, it is important for students to feel safe and secure within a classroom where there is freedom to learn and experience new things. At a study in Florida, one of the most dangerous states to live in currently, as a transgender person, 54% of trans and non-binary youth have seriously considered suicide in 2022. When students have a safer place to be true to themselves without fear of being forcefully outed or discriminated against, the risk of depression and suicide attempts goes down drastically. It is amazing that students feel safe enough to come out to their teachers in the school system and many others like Marlboro and Monmouth County and throughout the country. Let's not, as a community, take that hope and ability away from our children who are only just trying to figure themselves out. Let's allow them to learn and grow with the help of trusted adults and not potentially scary and dark world that is the internet. Let's not push the agenda of forcing children into a bubble of tradition and control and allow them to be themselves and explore who they are in their own time. Teachers, we are a guide to a children's future. We teach them so much before they go on their own. Let's teach them to accept themselves, whoever that may be, without a fear of a forced outing. Parents, Please understand this is not about transparency for you, but to help your children and grandchildren grow and learn more about themselves so that they will go out into the world and have a firm grasp of who they are. If this passes, children will feel forced to hide and create an increase of depression and suicidal ideation. Board, please don't allow this change to pass and keep Marlboro schools one of the very few safe spaces for our queer youth in America. Thank you.
Next, Dahlia Salama.
Good evening, board members. Montepello Drive, Marlboro. First, I'd like to give a very big shout out to Nurse Carrie from Dugan. I came here at the beginning of the year to thank her for helping my daughter with diabetes type 1. She really went above and beyond. And I'd like also to thank the Dugan administration, Mr. Pagliaro. He always helped anytime I reached for anything help regarding my daughter. And actually, I'd like to thank Mr. Ballone as well. He helped my daughter to have Miss Carrie during the leap time and the math really helped her. She's amazing now. Nurse Carrie always went above and beyond, checking with me everything regarding my daughter's glucose number, always included me and reached out for any concerns. That brings me to my second point. I support the board in including the parents in policy 5756. We're talking about kindergarten to 8th grade, minor kids, still living with their parents. They didn't leave the house. So think about it. If a student decides to change identity, how can he or she go to school with an identity, then live in their homes with a different one? Parents will know, eventually they will know, who will take them to, who will bring them anything they need regarding this. So it won't be practical, won't help the student. School counselors will definitely help the student along with social services if the student admits parents won't accept them. Thank you.
Next, Nora Gelparin.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay? A little closer? Okay,
Yeah.
Great. Good evening. My name is Nora Gelparin. I'm the parent of an 8th grader for 3 more days. Also a proud aunt of 2 non-binary immediate family members. But I'm actually here in my professional capacity as the director of sex education in a nonprofit called Advocates for Youth. I don't mean to brag, I am a national expert on family life and sex education. I helped write the national sex ed standards, and I was consulted on the New Jersey student learning standards and comprehensive health education. So I talk sex ed every day, all day. I actually drove straight here from a teacher workshop on gender identity in elementary school in Maryland. So it's been quite a day, but I'm happy to be here. I want folks to know that according to the American Academy of Pediatrics, I brought a copy if it's helpful, gender identity develops in all kids by ages 4 to 5. So by the time students enter kindergarten, all students have a gender identity, not just trans and non-binary kids, all students. Make no mistake, this proposed policy will cause harm to our students. According to the New Jersey Transgender Guidance for School Districts, and I quote, "There is no affirmative duty to notify a student's parent of the student's gender identity or expression. Additionally, there is a very good reason why kids don't tell their parents that they're trans or non-binary. Just look at the statistics being posted around the room if you're wondering why that's the case. The job of our schools is to follow state law and treat all students with dignity and respect. If you want to protect all the students, you must vote no on this revised transgender policy. The safety of all of our students must be more important than scoring political points."
Next up, Leo Davelman.
Good afternoon, members of administration, board members. I want to say first and foremost, Ms. Mendez, thank you so much for giving that presentation. It takes a lot to stand in front of a room like this and go through everything. I also want to especially recognize the entire board for working with our attorney and figuring out a way how to craft a policy that meets the needs of the district while still staying within the boundaries and constraints of what the legal framework of New Jersey demands. So that was a lot of hard work. Thank you for going through that work so that we could have a policy that could actually withstand muster. That is a big and important deal. But I actually didn't come here to talk about any of this. I wanted to address a completely different topic that I hope doesn't fall off the radar completely. It is my understanding from information gleaned in public forums of various sorts that there's an RFP out there for a new aftercare, or I shouldn't say new, for an aftercare provider. It is very important to do RFPs. It is the responsibility of the board in order to make sure that we make fiscally responsible decisions, to solicit bids and understand that the cost structures are what they need to be, as well as all other aspects of what a bid entails. But within that, I want to highlight that there are certain areas that are hard to quantify and hard to measure on paper. So I thought I'd come here and speak on the behalf of our current provider, Champions, who I feel have literally co-raised two of my children. The amazing teachers at the Marlboro Elementary Champions, Ms. Lisa and Ms. Marie, who often come to these meetings and attend to these affairs as well, have literally helped raise my kids to be who they are, which is strong, healthy, well-educated, opinionated, and yet proud to speak their mind in any forum kids. I don't think it's possible to put any of that in a bid. I would trust this Champions organization with my kids in any circumstance, anytime, and I hope that the opinions of community members can in some way be solicited and considered as part of this process, because there is a tremendous relationship in place that goes beyond the fiscal, that truly is an educator-child-parent relationship that has thrived here for years and that I hope can continue to thrive. So I don't know if that's anywhere on the agenda today. I tried to go through the 82 pages and to my shame failed. But I know the timelines are such that there might not be another meeting to speak on this issue, so I apologize for taking the precious 3 minutes from this conversation. Thank you.
Timadoro.
Next up, Mark Wang.
Hello. I am urging the board to vote against the changes to policy 5756 because it puts kids at an unnecessary risk of suffering. It does this by mandating the school to go out of its way to abruptly force the disclosure of a vulnerable student's sensitive information. This is not only irreversible, it is cruel and can uproot the child's life and cause massive distress, to the point where the damage can last for years or even be permanent. Consider that on average, 40% of the minors in homeless shelters in America are LGBT. Consider also that around 11% of trans children between the ages of 15 to 17 are homeless, according to the FRA LGBTI survey in 2018. The cause of this, according to the FEN TSA's 2020 study, is their family showing disgust and retaliation towards their own children. So, there is no way this policy change can be safe to apply to all trans students if we know that every time the privacy of a student is forcibly invaded in this way, their family could be the 10% who is willing to kick out their own child if their identity persisted to that age range. And they will persist because you cannot change the innate LGBT status of anyone. However, the family won't ever forget, and so for years, the kids could be abused by being denied social interaction, cut off from the internet, denied privacy, socially humiliated, maybe even physically beaten, and in some cases even sexually assaulted to, quote, correct them. This has been happening to kids for the past 70 plus years, and many people sitting here generally across the nation have lived through those times where policies like these were widely in effect for gay youth, and have seen many of their promising peers and friends suffer and even take their lives as a result. I want to emphasize that no school has any obligation to go out of its way to forcibly reveal this sensitive information because of the simple reason that a student's LGBT status has no bearing on their ability to learn. But if this information is irresponsibly spread without 100% confirming the child's safety for each person is disclosed to, it can be crippling for the child's mental health as well as be crippling socially and academically. It can even spread to strangers who may be disgusted by LGBT people and wish to cause them harm. Obviously, none of this is conducive to a child's learning experience. I want to reiterate that disclosure of one's LGBT status is irreversible. People who are told this information will never forget it. Affected trans students in hostile households will need to either expend all their energy in an attempt to convince others that they are not trans, or they will suffer for the rest of their years before adulthood and risk rejection from their family afterward. There is no conceivable educational benefit to this policy. This policy does not have any consideration for the children's welfare. It is just pure cruelty. If it becomes active during the school year for any length of time, this policy can ruin kids' lives. I urge the board to reconsider. The safety and well-being of kids are at stake. Thank you.
Next up, Irene Deckerman.
Hi, Irene Deckerman, Morganville, New Jersey. I'm actually a resident here, and I'm a taxpayer here. And I'm not an activist bussed in to complain about something. And I just want to say that I support notifying parents what is going on with their K through 8 little children. They are our children, not yours. Thank you.
Next up, Bonnie Gabazon.
Good evening, Bonnie Gabazon, Marlboro. I'd like to begin by making two important distinctions that seem to be getting overlooked. Number one, we are a K through 8 district. Our students are ages 5 to 12 or 13. Number two, gay is not trans. This policy change does not out gay individuals. This policy change seeks to inform parents and include them in the care of children suffering from gender dysphoria, a complex condition that...
No calling out. No calling out on either side.
This policy change seeks to inform parents and include them in the care of children suffering from gender dysphoria, a complex diagnosis that brings emotional, social, and mental distress, as many people here tonight spoke of increasing suicide rates and all the emotional, social, and mental distress that comes along with gender dysphoria, and something like that should never be kept from a parent. I'd also like to point out that despite how it may look this evening, there is a large and growing community of LGBT community that oppose the increasing bombardment of these topics on young children in school. Tonight, I'd like to read an official statement from Gays Against Groomers about the current situation in New Jersey schools in regard to Policy 5756. Hello, we are Gays Against Groomers, Inc. We have officially submitted this statement to be read on our behalf. Gays Against Groomers is a 501c4 organization of gay people who oppose the recent trend of indoctrinating, sexualizing, and medicalizing children under the guise of LGBTQIA+. We are disgusted that the New Jersey State Attorney General filed a motion to stop a local school board from protecting parental rights. Every parent has the right to know what is going on with their children. And a majority of parents today are far more accepting, compassionate, and understanding than our government is currently giving them credit for. The Attorney General's argument was that parents wanting to know if their child is going through an identity crisis is somehow a violation of New Jersey's law against discrimination, so we decided to look into what supposedly is the, quote, most comprehensive anti-discrimination law in the country. What we found is a loophole under the protected classes under the LAD, which states that the LAD prohibits discrimination and bias-based harassment based on actual or perceived and then a long list of reasons people can say they're discriminated against, but let's go back to that word, perceived. There are two definitions. One of them is become aware of, and the other is interpret. Basically, language is important. It determines how we see ourselves and each other. It sets boundaries, but it also enables deception, allows loopholes, and can convince the ignorant that they want oppression as long as it sounds like a good thing. In this case, language is being used against parents to destroy their rights.
Bonnie.
Their children would not exist without them. Thank you.
Next up, JJ Jeanette Mistriet. I apologize if I mispronounced that.
Hi, I just want to say, even though I may live in Freehold Township, I spent 25 years of my life here raising my two boys. And I, too, was on the school board in the 80s when it was non-political. I was here when we built the Dugan School, when we taught reading, writing, and arithmetic. We minded our business, and we did what we had to do. Our job was programs, taking care of the building, making sure all our children were safe. A lot of this, and I'm sure some of the parents here are very sincere in their beliefs, others are part of an organized, financially organized effort on all the school boards. And many of you who are probably new to these school boards got on the school board so you could bring this chaos into our public school system, because we're trying to do away with public school so we can have charter schools, religious schools. It doesn't matter. You need not to out children. They're children. If you do this, and I'm sure you're going to do it, because call me canny if you want, but I know you're going to push this through. The first kid that has a problem, that gets hurt or commits suicide, that blood is going to be on your hands.
Next up, Ashley McCormack.
Ashley McCormack, Morganville, New Jersey. I don't like this. I hate this. I am a parent, but I am also a huge supporter of the LGBTQ. My best friend, my family, my friends, trans, all of it. Love it, support it. So being a parent and feeling like it's us versus them really, really stinks. But on the other hand, my child, not the schools, not the governments, my child. 1, 2, you talk about the suicide rates, you talk about blood on your hands. If you pass this, if the district knows that my child needs some sort of support when it comes to identity gender, and they're not getting it because I'm not aware of it, and they kill themselves, blood is on your hands that way too. So it goes both ways. It's 2023, it's not 1950 anymore. If a child is getting abused, they're most likely getting abused already, not because they're coming out as trans or because they're gay or queer or whatever. It's 2023. Trust parents to support their children. They're my children. I won't tell anybody what to do with their kids ever, just as the district should not. 90% of you guys were elected onto that board to represent parents and to do the right thing, and you've all done such an amazing job so far. We are behind you, wrote this policy in.
Next, Rachel Silverman.
I am transgender, and I work as an educator as an LGBTQ nonprofit. I also lived in Marlboro for the first decade of my life and attended the Early Learning Center in Robertsville. When I was in school, I realized I might be part of the queer community. My parents were homophobic and transphobic, and I feared that if they found out, I would be punished, forced into conversion therapy, or even disowned. More than 60% of queer young people do not feel their home is affirming, and this fear of family rejection is real. Up to 40% of homeless youth identify as queer or trans. I joined my high school GSA with people that I could trust as I figured out my identities. In a time when I didn't feel safe coming out at home, it was crucial to know there were trusted adults I could talk to who would accept me. And this is life-saving work. Half of trans and non-binary young people seriously considered committing suicide this year. When schools support youth when they come out, use their chosen names and pronouns, and let students use the restrooms that affirm their identity, that is proven to reduce suicide risks. When I eventually came out as trans to my family, it was my choice, and it was incredibly important I did so when I felt safe. Each person deserves the autonomy to make major decisions on their own terms. We need to trust students. If a student doesn't feel comfortable or ready to tell their parents, it is for a reason. This decision should be in the hands of the youth who can assess their safety, not in the hands of staff. When I was at Robertsville, I went to my guidance counselors for help when I was being abused, and they determined I was safe, but I wasn't. If schools are forced to out students to their families, many students will stop confiding in their teachers, losing access to that life-saving, affirming adult in their life. And if students do go to their teachers and then are outed, many will face dangerous environments at home. Hostile environments and rejection can look many ways, like things that we've heard tonight. Derogatory statements about the queer community, being told it's a sin, being told it's a trend. These are all things that we now know our youth in Marlboro are hearing. And these are what caused the suicide rates. These are what caused the depression. They cause the anxiety. Abuse is not just physical. It is verbal, it is emotional, it is being in an unaffirming and hostile environment. And the number of people who have showed up tonight in support of this policy shows why this policy is so dangerous. There are harmful myths about trans youth that are being perpetuated today. We know that by the age of kindergarten, according to the American Academy of Pediatrics, children do know their gender identities. Youth are able to come out as trans not because it's a trend, but because of increased visibility and representation. And teachers aren't encouraging students to be trans, they're listening with an open and supporting ear. In my role, I advise schools on how to be inclusive and support queer youth, and Marlboro students deserve affirming communities that I so desperately needed.
Next, Egan Dean.
Good evening. My name is Egan Dean. I'm an educator, community member, and youth group support leader from New Brunswick. First, this rule is discriminatory and illegal as written to my understanding. I'm concerned that this is under consideration at all because of your clear liability under NJSA 10.5-3. Your rule that states, quote, the district shall not discriminate, however, is just discrimination with extra words. It does not indemnify you. The courts will ask you, why is there no rule for parental notification for crushes or dating? No rule for parental notification for gay or lesbian kids? No notification rules for friendships or any other form of gender-related behavior? This rule signals specifically that transgender identity is aberrant, is dangerous, is something you get in trouble at home for. The Superior Court already struck down Hanover Township's similar rule last month. I urge you not to stand in violation of state law or open yourself to personal liability by opposing this rule. It will be a waste of time, a waste of taxpayer-funded legal fees, and an appreciable legal risk to establish Rule 5756. Second, it is not the rule of the public school to maintain the parent-child relationship. Irreversible medical treatment for gender dysphoria in minors is A, rare, and B, only possible with parental approval and full cooperation. Other identity-related behaviors like names and pronouns are not permanent or inherently harmful, and it is not the school's responsibility to regulate parental involvement in a child's feelings. The duty of care given to schools does not include regulating parent-child relationships, and I urge the board to stay out of families' constitutional right to privacy by rejecting this rule. Third, as a transgender and queer adult, as a youth group support organizer and an educator, I urge you to reject this rule on ethical and compassionate grounds. Every year, I meet dozens of students from townships across the state, including Marlboro, who struggle with homelessness, self-harm, substance abuse disorder, and more due to unsupportive family members and years of fear and shame living in unloving homes. Not in 1950, in 2023. According to a 2022 national survey, only a third of trans youth feel safe coming out at home. Everyone deserves the privilege I had in a supporting and loving home, but not everyone is so lucky. The included provisions for possible harm and abuse in Rule 5756 are weak and contrary to the New Jersey Department of Children and Family norms for preventing abuse. Do you want to force teachers to be accomplices to potential abuse? Will you be proud of a climate of fear and surveillance in your schools? Will you be happy to look into the eyes of frightened and isolated children? Finally, I speak not to you, but to the queer students, the future me's in this room and at home. You are perfect the way you are.
Comments to the board, please.
You're supposed to direct your comments
They
to the
are
chair,
perfect
please.
the way they are. They deserve unconditionally compassionate guidance that respects individuality. Queer grown-ups will never stop fighting for your safety and dignity.
Next up, I apologize if I mispronounced, Tag Das. Sorry, I apologize.
Hi, my name is Tage Das. I know it's kind of confusing. I'm a proud alumnus of Frank Defino Elementary School and of this school and of Marlboro High School. I'd like to begin by acknowledging good faith. After reviewing the board's standing policy on transgender students, I found it to be a mostly supportive structure that would certainly contribute to creating and maintaining a safe environment for our students. My intent in coming before you is to caution you against aspects of this policy that compromise this goal. The changes proposed today do not remedy these underlying problems, and I would encourage the board to forego these changes in favor of more effective measures. I'll say it plainly, as this policy stands, it makes an official habit out of forcibly outing trans children to their parents. We have many words for this: doxing, exposing, ratting out, snitching. All of these words have a negative connotation for a reason. There's only one reason a transgender child will not come forward to their parents with this personal detail. It's that they weren't comfortable, whether due to the threat of physical violence or fear of emotional or verbal abuse, or simply because they need time to understand this aspect of themselves. If they were comfortable, they'd do it. Advocates of parents' rights have the ability to ask their children whatever they would like in their own home. And if they've been an attentive, understanding parent, as I assume they are, they'll tell you soon enough. This notification to parents will not protect transgender students from bullying in the school. That's where I was. This notification to the parents will not protect transgender students from bullying in the school. The school should already be doing that. I certainly recall in my time here that bullying was taken very, very seriously, especially if it was towards a protected class like transgender students, gay students, disabled students. If we have any uncertainty about whether the children of our community are being protected from bullying in our schools, we've got a bigger problem here. The school has been doing that very well for the last few decades, certainly, again, in my time here. So, yeah, I think we'll be doing okay there. The this policy claims to be non-discriminatory, but it is discriminating. Gay students aren't being outed to their parents. Why transgender students? Why is this one group of students being singled out? Parents send their students to a place where they will be looked after by other adults that they've never met before, and that rests on the trust that these adults will be able to protect their children. Will this continue to be the case if our community's children are discouraged from being open with their teachers and counselors? Because this policy creates a culture of distrust. Students will not share a vulnerable part of themselves, even with qualified counselors who they need to speak to, because they fear their privacy will be breached. We send our kids to school assuming that the adults who work there know enough to take care of them. We're in a place where we aren't. And if we're encouraging students to hide from teachers, they won't be able to notice what they need to notice.
Then next up, Nancy Georgie.
Nancy Georgie, Morganville, a parent in Morganville. I'm not going to say what I have prepared to speak tonight because the situation is not right or pleasant. So good evening, everybody in the room. I would like to start as a parent that love all the kids with no exception. There is no reason not to love any kid. From all my heart, for as a parent, as Christian, I'm just asking everybody opposing the proposal, which is I fully support 100%, and I agree on it, and a lot of parents does because we are parents, so we know what a parent is, not just activist. So, I wonder, and I'm asking them, how many are you here are willing to die for a kid? I am. I am a parent. If you're not a parent, you don't know this feeling. You don't experience yet. But if you are a real parent, you know that you can die for your kid not to get hurt. And I'm not only willing to die for my own kids, I could die for any kid not to get hurt by any means. And that's how Christianity is. Parents, I just read today, and I have one copy of that research. It says that 30% of transition kids or in the process to be transitioned, 30% stop in the middle of the way. That's between adult and youth. So let's involve the parent to be part of that process if they are willing to understand, because nobody will embrace their kid and take care of them and protect them more than a parent. As we are living in a free country, and that's why I left my original country, for freedom and respect of religion, which I didn't find in my original country, for Christian especially. So, give our kids the freedom to choose and give them the parental involvement so they can decide and see how much their parents care for them. And everybody is saying feeling safe at school and not feeling at school. Thank you.
Next, Sarah Reichenbeck.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Cardillo Reichenbecker. I'm a parent, educator, community member, and I urge you to vote against Policy 5756. Presently, I live in Freehold Borough, but I spent the first 23 years of my life on School Road West. I'm a product of Marlboro Elementary and Marlboro Middle before moving on to a district magnet program. I sat in the classrooms of Virginia McDonald, Jack Locke, Gloria Fury, Ellen Herman, Elizabeth Quackenboss, and countless other excellent educators who would be as horrified as I am over these proposals tonight. I am an educator with 22 years of experience in the classroom, and I cannot impress upon you enough the importance of student safety in the classroom. There's a phrase we say in the educational world, and that is you have to Maslow before you can bloom. Students cannot learn in environments where they are not sure of their safety, where they do not have the trust between the student and the teacher. You spoke of collaboration in your proposed policy. You identified counselors specifically, but I believe you have misrepresented them as supportive of these changes. I am telling you that as an educator, your proposed actions are wholly and wildly inappropriate. This otherness and your version of we will treat them equally reminds me of water fountains. You're not being benevolent, and it's not a good look. Quite frankly, this is a manufactured crisis, and I see political pandering. You are imposing a culture war in our classrooms, not the other way around. This circus is and will remain a financial liability for this district, a siphon of funding, a waste of legal resources, not to mention an utter embarrassment to those of us who have dedicated our lives to educating young children. You expect me to take a bullet for the children entrusted to my care, but potentially then turn around and compromise their well-being to satisfy a sense of righteousness. It is deeply saddening. Consideration discussion of these changes is also a staggering overreach of your role as board members. I hope that if you do pass this, you're prepared, as statute requires, to initiate an investigation with DC, P&P for every student who states that they don't feel safe at home. I do not believe you are prepared to do that. My watch tells me that it's Tuesday evening on June the 20th in 2023, but it feels more like Joseph McCarthy in 1950, Bull Connor in 1960, Atwood's futuristic, now historical, but feeling much like the present Gilead. I really cannot believe we are here, under his eye or whatever.
Madeline Vysotsky for CPAG.
Sorry, it's Angela Colby Vysotsky. It's okay.
I'm sorry.
As the year comes to a close, Robin and I would like to say thank you to the district for working together with CPAG throughout the year. We wanted to thank Special Services for scheduling regular meetings to discuss important topics and for addressing urgent concerns of parents. We wanted to note a few major of our accomplishments this year. First, CPAG expanded our family members with the help of Vinny to help us set up a table at Marlboro Day to be more visible throughout the district. We've increased our communication avenues through MTPS with flyers, electronic communication, and a new CPAG website. We've worked with Mrs. Nowalki and the middle school to expand special viewing hours for the band and the chorus concerts rehearsals this year for our special needs. We were able to work with Special Services to make IEPs viewable within Genesis for all students, which has allowed parents to be able to track and review their current documents and compare quickly to what the progress reports of the parents are getting. CPAG has also advocated for making progress reports available for the first marking period for the pre-K and kindergarten students. In the past, progress reports weren't available until the second marking period, and parents were very concerned of their child's progress for the first 3 months of the school year. So we appreciate the teachers and the Special Services for doing this for us. Additionally, we hope that we maintain open communication with the new Special Services Director and their team regarding important topics related to any kind of silent disabilities, general education inclusion, appropriate field trips and activities, and increasing the knowledge of all non-special education student and staff throughout the district. CPAG has developed a community where challenging personal topics related to their child's education situations and placements are discussed. It's a place where parents can look to find solutions and suggestions from other parents based on their past experiences. It's a place where strengthening IEP and 504 goals can start. It's a place where parents can come together to express concerns confidentially and look for systemic issues between all of the schools. It's a place where parents can offer suggestions and improvements to MTPS. So I and Robin would like to thank the board, thank the district, thank all the teachers, the special education staff, the principals, and all of the CPAG parents for reaching out and being a family. And yeah, come and see us at Marlboro Day, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out for us over the summer. Thank you.
Next, Gabriella Romo.
I stand before you today as a trans and genderqueer lesbian and former student of Marlboro Memorial Middle School, class of 2010. I never imagined that the reason I'd be stepping foot in this school 13 years later would be because of bigoted, harmful, and violent policies that you plan to enact that actively attack trans students in the very hallways I walked through as a kid. Have you no shame, no compassion, and respect for the children you chose to serve because of the job you decided to have? You sit in those chairs because you decided you wanted to be in charge of the safety, wellness, and education of the children in your district. Your actions and intentions speak loud and clear, and the message you are spreading is that you're transphobic, homophobic, and have no true interest in the well-being of students. I'm sure it's very comfortable in those seats, but know that I and all of us here who believe in and fight for justice will make your jobs very uncomfortable if you make the choice to put students' lives at risk. How can you bear to go to sleep at night knowing you will be the direct cause of harm to students by forcibly outing a child to their parents or guardians? I don't see a single valid reason for policies like these to be implemented other than to satisfy transphobic and homophobic ideologies and insecurities. The same ideologies that have put this country in a state of emergency and put all LGBTQ+ lives at risk. Your claim of seeking to establish transparency between school and home life is, for many students, home is not safe. And school is the one place they can go to feel safe. At least that's how it should be. And your role as administrators is to foster a safe environment for students to learn and grow and be themselves. When you forcibly out a child to a parent or guardian who is transphobic and or homophobic, you endanger that student's life, lose their trust, and remove any sanctuary they may have felt they had in school. Quite frankly, you're abusing your positions of power as adults who have the professional and moral responsibility to ensure the safety of students at school. Why does it matter to you if a student wants to be referred to by a different name or use different pronouns? It seems like you just want to surveil and police students who are trans, because I have a feeling if that someone like myself named Gabriella wants to be called Gabby, that person wouldn't be getting a phone call home and need parental permission or notification. Why is it any different for someone who is trans? I hope you see the flawed hypocrisy in your illogical thinking. I'm repulsed by and pity the smallness of your hearts and minds and how limited your view of people in the world is. You will never know our joy, and you don't deserve it anyway. To all the trans and queer students of this district, know that you're not alone. Even though those with the power and responsibility to protect you have failed you, your community will never stop fighting for you. We will never stop loving you and work towards building the world you were meant to live in, the world where your rights as both kids and trans and queer people are a given and protected. I know times are terrifying right now. It hurts to see the adults who are supposed to care for you behave in such inhumane ways, but there are plenty of other adults like us who actually care about you and want you to thrive and feel safe, cherished, and loved. You are perfect exactly as you are and exactly as you want to be.
Okay, the last one on my list for first public comment, Marissa Frigoletto.
Hi, how's it going? Oh, I thought they
Excuse
called
me, excuse me, sir. Yes.
I'm here today to speak out against the Marlboro Board of Education's proposed policies that negatively impact trans and non-binary students. I grew up in Marlboro. I lived here from 2000 to 2017 on Tennant Road. I was in the inaugural kindergarten class at the Early Learning Center when I attended Asher Holmes for elementary school and went to Marlboro Middle School. As a Marlboro alumnus, as a queer person with queer siblings, including a transgender 10-year-old brother who was not forced to be that identity, and as a current public school teacher in Monmouth County, I felt compelled today to speak up for the queer youth that should not have to worry about adults who have no interest in protecting them. The NJ Department of Education offers very clear guidance for school districts to support LGBTQ+ youth. What the Marlboro Board of Education is proposing with outing students without their consent is in direct opposition of the department's recommendations. It directly harms students that are already vulnerable to mental health issues and suicidal ideation. Outing is dangerous. It can cause massive psychological harm and lead to physical harm if the student's family is not accepting. If a student feels more comfortable confiding in a teacher or other school employee about their gender, but not their own parent or guardian, there is a reason. Fewer than 1 in 3 trans and non-binary children come from accepting and affirming homes. The proposal says if there is reason to believe that there is danger, they will not inform families. But I don't know many abusive domestic situations that were not at first really good at hiding abuse to authorities. Forcing teachers and educators to break the trust they have with their students is abhorrent. I proudly hang my pride flag in my classroom, and I teach elementary school. I teach my whole school. I'm a specials teacher. They come into my classroom. I have students who see my flag and know that I am a safe space, and they come out to me. I ask them, what do you want me to call you? And then the second thing I ask is, what should I call you around other people, around your family? Should I use your pronouns when I call home, when I meet your parents? It is important. I will not break that trust. If I am given the option between putting my students in the line of fire and outing them to my family, to their families, and protecting them, I will always protect them no matter what harm will come my way. Thank you.
So were you after Mrs. Romo? Okay, because it wasn't legible on here. Can you please just, this is the last one, so just state your name and address, please. Yes, and this is the last public comment because this is exceeding the 1 hour mark that we had set. Yes, there'll be another public comment, a second one, and I believe I have about 28 names on that one.
Sorry if it was a little sloppy. I was writing real quick. It's actually pretty cool being over there while listening to everybody talk, because then you can see everyone's reactions, what everyone's thinking. And it's really interesting because like we have people, the community down over here, so you can see exactly what they're doing. I can see exactly what they're doing. Every time I see someone who's not supporting this thing you guys are trying to pass, I see people literally going, people, you know, like making jokes and looking at our signs and laughing. We got someone putting false information out there about 30%. You know, it's really, really, really interesting to see the dynamic in this room, you know? And which is why it's a good thing to have, you know, as unfortunate as it is that we have, you know, we have to talk about all these things. But, you know, we see the people in the community here. We got someone who wants their child to be outed so they could fix their sickness. These are the people from here. And you want the students to be outed to those parents who are over here, you know, writing little signs just to put it in our faces, you know, making little gestures and laughing at us, having whole rows of people laughing at us. You know, like it's, you're seeing it, right? You guys can see behind me. You guys can see behind me. These are the people, the parents who love their kids, who want their kids to be bright, who wants their kids to live and prosper. Yet they're over here, you know, showing you why you shouldn't out them to these parents. To some of these parents, I'm not trying to say, oh, these parents behind me are this and that, but it's very obvious that there are parents here who are homophobic, who are transphobic, and you are seeing it, yet you're thinking, oh, we should still pass this thing where our student is going to go home to a transphobic, homophobic parent. And you're seeing it. You are. And that's wow. If you guys could see all this here now today, and then go home and be like, all right, let's continue getting this rolling. That's insane. Whoa. That's wild, man. As a person, don't identify as a transgender individual. I am an LGBTQ person, member of the community. My parents, you know, I was raised Catholic. My mom is turned to Christianity a few years ago after her father passed away. They loved me. They loved me. But I didn't come out to them or whatever until like I was well into my 20s. That's when I started wearing clothes that I wear and all these things. I have a sibling who's non-binary, a sister who's lesbian, and because of them, they helped the conversation in our family. And for us not to be scared to present ourselves as who we are to our parents who are Catholic, who are Christian, but they love us. But I fear that if I didn't have all those years of my parents and, you know, with my siblings, like, you know, putting themselves out there, I fear that if I was in middle school and my parents got a phone call about me, their only son in a Mexican family, I feel that they were like not accept me, but they did because all these years passed.
Timodoro.
That is it, Mrs. Amster. That's it.
Motion to close first public comments. Do I have a second? Annette, any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes.
We have another public participation.
You can wait for the second half of the meeting. So we're just going to say a few things, and I think we're going to move to a vote at some point in the very near future. First thing I wanted to say was thank you to everybody for coming out. Whether you agree with the policy or you don't, I want to thank you. Most of the comments were very respectful, and it was nice to hear all sides of everybody's upbringing and how they came out and their stories, and from parents in the community as well. So I want to thank you all for that. And when I look around the room, I see a lot of signs that are talking about protecting the children, keeping schools a safe place. We're not here to refute whether you agree with us or not, or try to change people's minds. That's not what we're here to do. We want to respect everybody in this room. But what I do want to say is that when we worked through the policy, for us, a safe space was collaboration between everybody. And we are not one of the districts. There are districts that are forced outing children. That is not us. If you look on there, it says in collaboration with the child. We will not immediately notify a parent. That was listed in some school districts, but again, not here in Marlboro. Here in Marlboro, what we're looking to do is if a child wants to change their identity, change their name on school records, change their name in our grade portal, the first thing we're going to do is collaborate with the child in how they will feel safe in telling their families and when they feel the right time is appropriate. We're going to collaborate with them to talk about a school counselor, what support and resources they need so that they can eventually, when they're ready, get the support they need from their home. Because remember, they're not always in school. And you talk about suicide rates, they need support at home just like they need it in school. And we agree, we want the school to be a safe environment. So we are not force outing. You saw in the policy, we will collaborate with the child. That is very important to us to keep them safe as well. And so we just wanted to say that. Again, I appreciate all of you coming out tonight, and it was very nice to hear from all of you, so thank you.
Any other board members? Okay.
I have a few points that I just wanted to respond to from the many comments that made the assumption that I am like all parents. I think that every situation is unique and different, and to assume assumptions about how I would treat my child is, to me, personally, seems a little hypocritical, because I wouldn't make assumptions about you. I would never assume that anyone in this room is suicidal just because you're part of the LGBTQIA+ society. I wouldn't assume that you had it easy or you had it hard because I was never in your situation. But I am speaking as a loving parent and someone who is part of a generation that is trying to be more accepting of our children and the choices that they make and the lifestyle that they want to live. We are not your parents. We are our children's parents. And we were born in a different time where we wouldn't try to pray the gay out of someone. So I am offended as a parent that you would assume that A, I just chose one morning to wake up and become a board member because I was elected by the vast majority of the community, I'd like to remind you. We proudly ran under the acronym of parenting over politics, so any type of assumption that you think I'm here as some radical right-wing Christian is also offensive. I remove my personal beliefs when I'm sitting here at this table, and I am acting as a parent, not as a parent with any type of political agenda, which was also offensive. I appreciate everyone coming to the microphone tonight. I just wanted to quickly recognize taking the day off for Eid, because we are a community and I don't want to lose sight of the things that we've been discussing as a community every third Tuesday of the month. We also have been struggling with school safety for the last 15 to 16 months, and I would love to see you all come and support those children as well in before care and after care that need security. I genuinely have been spending a lot of time processing this and thinking about my decision, and to note all of the comments tonight that mentioned discrimination. The only time a parent wouldn't be alerted is if they were trans, is discrimination, in my opinion. There are children that are afraid of their parents that are typical. So if a child is failing, I wouldn't expect to hide the grades. If a child isn't eating, I wouldn't expect to hide that from the parents. All children at one point or another, struggle, and the parents are alerted. If the child is a bully, the parent is called. If the child, God forbid, brings a weapon to school, the parent is called. Please, there's no calling out,
Back and forth.
sir.
There's no back and forth.
I sat respectfully for the last 75 minutes and listened to 25 public comments. It's our turn. Thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight. I think that we can move forward with the vote.
Communications, Mr. Balone?
I have none.
Superintendent's report, HIB report?
Yes, between the time from May 11th, 2023 through June 14th, 2023, we had 3 incidents.
Meeting dates, Tuesday, July 25th, 2023, regular. Policy development and community relations matters. Val?
The superintendent of schools submits the following resolutions for approval. Number 1, second readings. Be it resolved that the following be approved for second reading before the Board of Education. Policy 2530, resource materials. Policy 3217, use of corporal punishment. Policy 5111, eligibility of resident and non-resident students. Policy 5308, student health records. Policy 5756, transgender students. Policy 6112, reimbursement of federal and other grant expenditures. Number 2, first readings. Be it resolved that the following be approved for the first reading before the Board of Education. Policy 2520, instructional supplies. Policy 7440, school district security. Policy 9130, public complaints and grievances. Number 3, amended 2023-2024 school year calendar. I so move.
Do I have a second? Susie, any discussion? I see none. Vin, roll call.
Sure. Mrs. Seward?
Yes.
Mrs. Jankowski?
Yes.
Mr. Lolansky?
Yes.
Mrs. Piernick?
Yes to everything, and as a school counselor, I'm abstaining from policy 5756.
Mrs. Rosado?
Yes.
Mrs. Shrem?
Yes.
Mrs. Mendez?
Yes.
And Mrs. Amster?
Yes. Approval of minutes resolution. You want to read it? Approval of minutes resolution.
I don't feel that way. I hope no child kills themselves. I just want to go on record for not condoning that man's comment.
If you continue to call out, we're going to have to ask you to be removed, please.
Approval of minutes resolution. 1, approval of minutes. Be it resolved that the minutes of the following meetings be approved as submitted. March 21st, 2023, special meeting. March 28th, 2023, regular meeting. April 18th, 2023, workshop meeting. April 25th, 2023, regular meeting. May 2nd, 2023, special meeting. I so move.
Do I have a second? Any discussion?
Mrs. Piernick?
I see none. Vin, roll call.
Sure. Mrs. Shrem?
Yes.
Mrs. Seward?
Yes.
Mrs. Jankowski?
I'm going to say yes, but can I abstain from March 21st and 28th because I
Yes.
was not on the board then? I abstain from those two.
Thank you. Mr. Lolansky?
Yes.
Mrs. Mendez?
Yes.
Mrs. Piernick?
Yes.
And Mrs. Rosado?
Yes.
And Mrs. Amster?
Yes.
Thank you.
Secretary, Business Administrator's report, and the Board Secretary's monthly certification.
Yep, so this is the monthly certification for the Board Secretary's report and the payroll certification for the month of May 2023.
Okay, thanks, Ben. Committee reports. Communications Committee.
The Communications Committee met yesterday with Ms. Morgan Gross and Mr. Balone. We have a proposed date for our second community coffee chat, so please mark your calendars. Since we know September is grueling for back to school, we've decided on Wednesday, October 4th, 10-4, if you need to help remember that. Certain things were discussed as far as utilizing social media to connect in-school activities with parents at home, as well as trying to lure people into wanting to work for the Marlboro School District. We have discussed using things like door prizes and raffles to try to engage the community, and topics of discussion for the October coffee chat are still in the works, so please stay tuned.
Thank you. Curriculum Committee, Christina.
Yes, the Curriculum Committee met quite often, almost every week through the month of May and June to discuss the New Jersey Department of Education. They allowed for public comment on the new math and ELA standards through June 7th. So we met weekly, divided the work of reviewing these standards, both ELA and math, in conjunction with MTPS staff. We generated a letter to the New Jersey Department of Education that outlined our feedback on these standards, some of which include simple fixes such as misspellings or typos, and then others related to specific content area, instructional practices, as well as word choice considerations. So we did some really great work on that.
Thank you. Val, policy?
Yes. So for first read, we approved the school district security policy, which is 7440. So you'll see some changes coming there. We just added the addition of the threat assessment team, which is something that came guidance that we had to create. And so that will be added in there. The other policy that you're going to see coming your way in the next month or two is the harassment, intimidation, or bullying policy. It's about 45 pages. In that policy, we've actually added a zero tolerance policy for any sort of violence, racism, discrimination, etc. A variety of things that other parents have spoken about in the past, and you'll see some additions there, and what steps are going to be taken when any of those instances happen. And so some of those you'll see, plus a variety of others.
Thank you. Safety and Security Committee, Michael.
Hi. So as I stated on my last report, the board did go out for RFP for before and after care with and without armed security and unarmed security as well. We did receive back those RFP answers. The board has reviewed them, the Security Committee, and we're going to be bringing back four different respondents to come to the board for further review in an executive session, so the board can come back with a final decision of who to go forward with. Our timeline is okay. Our timeline is okay to make this decision in time we feel for September. For the summer program, it will remain as it is, so nothing's changing for the summer.
Thanks, Michael.
Yeah.
Organization matters, Jess.
One, board auditor. Two, insurance agent. I so move.
Do I have a second? Christina. Any discussion? See none. Vin?
Mrs. Shrem?
Yes.
Mrs. Seward? Mrs. Jankowski?
Yes.
Mr. Lalansky?
Yes.
Mrs. Mendez?
Yes.
Mrs. Rosado?
Yes.
Mrs. Piernick?
Yes.
And Mrs. Amster?
Yes. Financial and business operations matters. Kerry?
The superintendent of schools submits the following resolutions for approval. Number 1, transfers. Number 2, list of bills. Number 3, secretary monthly reconciliation reports. Number 4, travel. Number 5, harassment, intimidation, bullying, HIV report. Number 6, approval of MTPS safe return plan. Number 7, security drills. Number 8, approval of ESEA allocations for the 2023-2024 school year. Number 9, award of bid Chromebooks. 10, award of bid, Chromebook cases. 11, Public Law 2015, Chapter 47. 12, end-of-year transfers. 13, American Red Cross. 14, lead testing statement of assurance. 15, state contract purchase custom Bandag Incorp. for tires and tire-related services for the 2023-2024 school year. Number 16, state contract purchase Allegiance Trucks DBA Mid-Atlantic Truck. Center for repair parts for buses and vans for the 2023-2024 school year. 17, New Jersey State Contract Purchase Simplex Grinnell Johnson Controls, Inc. for fire alarm repairs, burglar alarm repairs, and related services for the 2023-2024 school year. 18, ESCNJ Contract Purchase Allied Fire and Safety Equipment Company in court for fire sprinkler repairs and related services for the 2023-2024 school year. 19, ESCNJ Contract Purchase Spruce Industries for custodial supplies and related services for the 2023-2024 school year. 20, ESCNJ Contract Purchase AME Inc. Building Management Systems for maintenance and related services for the 2023-2024 school year. 21, ESCNJ Contract Purchase Inline Air Conditioning Inc. for HVAC repairs and related services for the 2023-2024 school year. 22, Sourcewell Contract Purchase Flooring Concepts of New Jersey LLC for Pat Craft Shaw Carpet, floor covering, and related services for the 2023-2024 school year. Number 23, Omnia Partners Contract Purchase USA Building Maintenance for roofing, siding, gutters, and related services for the 2023-2024 school year. 24, Omnia Partners Home Depot Pro for maintenance supplies and related services for the 23-24 school year. Number 25, award of bid 2023 paving improvements at various locations. Number 26, transfer of current year surplus to maintenance reserve and capital reserve accounts. Number 27, approval of the 2023-2024 school year lunch prices. Number 28, out-of-district placements for the 2022-2023 school year. Number 29, out-of-district placements for the 2023-2024 school year. Number 30, award of proposal, special education-related educational services. Okay. Number 31, approval of agreement, Oxford Consulting Services, Inc., ESY. Number 32, approval of agreement, Oxford Consulting Services, Inc., ESY. Number 33, approval of agreement, Resnick Consultants, LLC, ESY. Number 34, approval of agreement, ESY Summer Speech Therapy Services. Number 35, approval of agreement, ESY Summer Physical Therapy Services, United Therapy Services. Number 36, approval of agreement, ESY Summer Physical Therapy Evaluations, United Therapy Services. Number 37, approval of agreement with Bayetta Home Healthcare, Inc. for the provision of nursing service for case number 936. Number 38, approval agreement with Bayetta Home Healthcare, Inc. for the provision of substitute nursing services. Number 39, approval of agreement, ESY Summer Occupational Therapy Services, United Therapy Services. Number 40, home instruction. Number 41, donation. Number 42, approval of joint transportation agreement with Colts Neck Township Public School District. Number 43, approval of contract with Marlboro Township for police officers. 44, approval of agreement with Marlboro Township for school resource officer. Number 45, renewal of district insurance policies. Number 46, dental benefits. Number 47, approval of facilities use fee schedule. 48, approval of shared services agreement with the Township of Marlboro Food Services for recreation summer programs. Number 49, approval of shared services agreement for the Alliance. Number 50, state contract purchase, Hoffman Services, Inc. for purchase of replacement vehicle lift 2022-2023 school year. Number 51, amended before and after school care program agreement. Number 52, participation in coordinated transportation. Number 53, authorization of advertisement for sale of BNG Annex building. Number 54, non-public school requests for security purchases under the non-public security and program for the 2022-2023 school year. Number 55, state contract purchases. I so move.
Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you.
Do I have a second? Christina, any discussion? I see none, then roll call.
Mrs. Shrem?
Yes.
Mrs. Seward?
Yes.
Mr. Olonsky?
Yes.
Mrs. Mendez?
Yes.
Mrs. Piernick?
I abstain from number 41 and yes to everything else.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Rosado?
Yes.
Mrs. Jankowski?
Yes.
And Mrs. Amster?
Yes. Curriculum matters. Annette?
Yes, I will. Curriculum matters. The superintendent of schools submits the following resolution for approval. Number 1, interscholastic athletic competitions, fall sports, 23-24 school year. I so move.
Do I have a second? Susie? Any discussion? I see none. Finn?
Mrs. Jankowski?
Yes.
Mr. Olonsky?
Yes.
Mrs. Mendez?
Yes.
Mrs. Piernick?
Yes.
Mrs. Rosado?
Yes.
Mrs. Shrem?
Yes.
Mrs. Seward?
Yes.
And Mrs. Amster?
Yes. Personnel matters. Susie?
The superintendent of schools submits the following resolutions for approval. 1, retirements. 2, resignations. 3, employment certificated administrator. 4, employment certificated staff. 5, employment school psychologist. 6, employment instructional assistants. 7, reemployment certificated staff. 8, amended start date. 9, school aides additional compensation. 10, amended salary certificated staff. 11, amended salaries non-aligned support staff. 12, reassignment and amended salary support staff. 13, reassignment, transfer, and amended salary non-certificated staff. 14, reassignment and amended salary certificated staff. 15, stipend additional duties confidential secretary. 16, nurse substitute caller stipend. 17, lead counselor stipend. 18, lead nurse stipend. 19, lead mental health stipend. 20, painting and murals cafeteria. 21, extracurricular activities advisors. 22, teachers Saturday school discipline program. 23, assistant Saturday school discipline program. 24, substitute assistants Saturday school discipline. 25, after school detention. 26, substitute after school detention. 27, school counseling summer work. 28, amended school counseling summer work. 29, wraparound counseling services summer work. 30, summer nurse work, review of allergy and medication documentation. 31, child study evaluations and meetings. 32, teachers summer IEP meetings. 33, 23, summer support program certificated staff. 34, 2023 summer support program instructional assistants. 35, 2023 summer support program substitute certificated staff. 36, 2023 extended school year program certificated staff. 37, 2023 extended school year program for students with special needs, Wilson reading teacher. 38, 2023 extended school year program for students with special needs, teacher of the deaf. 39, 2023 extended school year program, instructional assistants. 40, 2023 extended school year special education programs, substitute certificated staff. 41, 2023 extended school year special education program, substitute instructional assistants. 42, 2023 extended school year program, school monitor. 43, 2023 extended school year special education program, substitute school monitors. 44, 2023 summer work bus drivers. 45, 2023 summer work bus attendant. 46, 2023 summer work substitute bus attendants. 47, 2023 summer work secretaries, clerk typists. 48, 2023 summer work substitute couriers. 49, transportation department. 50, student teaching. 51, student practicum. 52, administrative internship. 53, substitute teachers. 54, substitute nurse. 55, substitute instructional assistants. 56, substitute secretary. 57, substitute confidential secretary. 58, substitute school monitors. 59, substitute bus drivers. 60, substitute bus attendants. 61, substitute couriers. 62, substitute transportation secretaries. 63, paid medical disability leave. 64, unpaid leave of absences. 65, amended resolution leave dates. I so move.
Thank you, Susie. Do I have a second? Michael, any discussion? I see none. Vin, roll call.
Sure, before the roll call, there's some corrections. So number 5, the effective date should be 7/1 on or before. So 7/1/23 through June 30th, 24, and not 9/1/23.
This was for number 5?
Yes.
Okay.
The next one, number 29, the not to exceed amount of $11,836 should be changed to $5,214.24. And then the last correction, number 60, substitute bus attendants, a name needs to be added, Barbara Davidson. That's it.
Did we do the second yet?
Yes.
Okay.
So roll call
Then roll
vote.
call, yeah.
Mrs. Mendez?
Yes.
Mrs. Piernick?
Yes.
Mrs. Rosado?
Yes.
Mrs. Seward?
Yes.
Mrs. Jankowski?
Yes.
Mr. Lalansky?
Yes.
Mrs. Shrem?
Yes.
And Mrs. Amster?
Yes. Michael has to say some retirement comments, but I'd like to congratulate our new Director of Special Services, Mary Elizabeth Tyrone. Welcome back.
Retirement comments for Amy Cabral. Amy Cabral has announced her intention to retire after 4 years of service to the students of Dugan Elementary School. Hired in November of 2019, Amy shared that the most memorable highlights of her career in education are her 4 years here at Dugan. She went on to say, "I did not have a home until arriving here." Although she and Janine Vandervoort worked together for only 4 months before the world shut down, they worked together to bring our youngest learners unimaginable opportunities. Amy shared how forever grateful she was to be placed in room 16, where Jeannie has treated her with respect, kindness, and compassion. Her only regret is that it was only for 4 years, yet she was fortunate to have been able to collaborate with her. Amy also shared how much she will miss interacting with the kindergarten population, citing her enjoyment in working with emergent readers and helping them to adjust to full-time schooling. Walking into the classroom, no person's role was any more important than anyone else. There was a true synergy, and the students benefited greatly. In her retirement, Amy is looking forward to enjoying the youth of her senior years with her husband, Joe. They plan on having more time to travel, bike, go to the beach, and ride around in their vintage cars. We wish Amy many years of health and happiness in retirement and thank her for the lasting impact on our school community. Retirement comments for Jill Kyrol. Ms. Kyrol has been a physical therapist for Marlboro Township Public Schools for several years. Ms. Kyrol has worked in each and every school across the district with students in all grade levels, pre-K through 8. She has made a significant impact on students throughout her years in the district, improving access to their educational environments and working tirelessly to help students meet their individual PT goals. She will be remembered for her unwavering dedication to student outcomes and drive to give each student the gifts of independence and confidence in their skills. We wish Ms. Kyrol a happy, relaxing retirement and nothing but the very best in her next chapter. And finally, retirement comments for Denise Silberman. Mrs. Denise Silberman has faithfully served the children of Marlboro Township Public Schools as an instructional assistant for the past 18 years. She has spent the majority of her time in the district at Abbott working in our preschool program. She has remained a student of her craft, working diligently to learn our ABA program and methods. Denise has worked closely with teachers to learn the unique needs of each student and tailor specific instructional strategies to meet their needs. More recently, Denise transferred to our integrated preschool program, where she continues to learn new techniques and support the class in a variety of ways. Her dedication and willingness to learn have made her a true asset to both the staff and students she works with. When asked what she is most proud of, Denise noted that having a positive impact on children's lives has been the most rewarding aspect of her time with us. She loves to see students learn and grow as she helps them become all they can be. In retirement, she's looking forward to traveling and playing more tennis. In closing, Mrs. Silberman's experience and dedication will be greatly missed. However, we all wish her a very happy and healthy retirement.
Before we get to the liaison reports, Val would like to say something.
I think tonight we had a good meeting where we listened to everybody's feedback and comments and thoroughly appreciated it. There are two things, though, that I'd like to address. First thing is that you said it's our job to sit up here. It is, as elected officials, our opportunity and ability to sit here and listen to the community. That's actually part of the Open Public Meetings Act. But what is not our job to do is to sit here and have veiled threats and someone telling us that if we pass this policy, they will make our life uncomfortable. My back is to the person that said that because I'm speaking on the mic, but you know who said that statement. This has been live streamed and recorded. So anybody who thinks they're going to threaten our board or any other board is not going to happen or sit lightly. We respect you all. We respect everybody's opinion, and people should respect us. We are elected, and this is a volunteer. It is not our job. It is a volunteer position, and we're doing it for the better of the community, our community of Marlboro, the taxpayers, the parents, and the students. So do not come to this meeting and threaten anybody sitting on this board. There are armed guards here, and in the future, your veiled threats on social media will not stand. So remember that, and I'm looking directly at you who finds it funny, because you will be excused from this meeting in a moment.
I would also I would also want to note that there's various laws in the state of New Jersey prohibiting threats against public officials. Civil discourse is a positive thing, but certainly to Ms. Mendez's points, threats will not be tolerated, and if there are threats against board members who vote their conscience, I can assure you we will make sure those folks are fully prosecuted.
Kerry, Freehold Regional Liaison Report.
Yes, so I received my liaison report. Freehold Regional's next Board of Ed meeting is not until June 29th. It's a Thursday, so there was very limited updates that they had. I will say, as a parent in the Freehold Regional, there was an email sent out today regarding state funding and their advocacy for what the cuts have done. So you can check your emails and you'll see an email from Dr. Sampson there. And speaking of Dr. Sampson, Mr. Messinger has told me that the Gannett, or Gannett, I don't know how to pronounce it, News is reporting that Dr. Sampson is moving school districts. He is up for a vote tonight to be approved in a different school district, and his anticipated last day as superintendent of the Freehold Regional District is October 31st. So we want to take the opportunity to wish him well in his new ventures and his new opportunities, and for his service to the Freehold Regional District. Thank you, Dr. Sampson.
Annette, MEF.
Nothing to report.
Michael, Marlboro Township Liaison.
Sure. Township would like you to know the Marlboro Farmers Market is open every Sunday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. through October. More information is available on social media and the website. Number 2, road construction season is upon us. Winecrest and Union Hill roads have been repaid with more to come. If you have not been receiving the weekly road construction updates via email, visit the town website and enter your email into the blue box. It will help you avoid the detours. The Marlboro Concert of Independence will be held on Sunday, July 9th. The concert will begin at 7:30 and the fireworks at dusk. More will be sent via email and social media. And lastly, if you are planning a summer vacation, be sure to request a vacation security check linked on top of the town website, linked to take steps to protect your home and vehicles. And that's it.
Thank you, Michael. School liaison reports, Robertsville, bless you, Kerry, Robertsville.
So Ms. Green at Robertsville sent me this following report, and she just went through the list of everything that has gone on in the month of June. So on June 1st, they had their spring band concert. It was wonderful. June 2nd, there was an author visit. June 9th, there was a pen pal breakfast with Marlboro Rec seniors. June 14th was when they had their moving up ceremony. So congratulations to all those fifth graders. Have a great summer and best of luck in your middle school. And June 19th, which was yesterday, was their field day. That was a lot of fun.
Michael, MMS.
MMS. Mrs. Principal Milwaukee would like you to know that graduation was wonderful. Congratulations to all 8th graders. The 8th grade service learning project ended with a donation of $2,200 to the charity A Simple Wish. Thank you to the PTO for their support in the project and the cotton candy treats for the students. The PTO is providing ice treats for all students on June 21st. The PTO is donating sound systems to MMS Gym and also to the music room. And a reminder, 8th grade dance at the Grand Marquis is 6 to 8:30 on Wednesday night. And to everybody, a happy summer.
Susie Morrell.
Okay, so last week we had a field day. There was also the moving up ceremony. The end of year party is tomorrow night, and school supplies are on sale for next year, so buy your kits now.
Thank you. Val Memorial.
8th grade graduation was on June 16th for Marlboro Memorial, so congratulations to all the graduates. There was an 8th grade picnic, and the kids had fun. The 8th graders were sent home with a cinch bag. They had class of 2023 acrylic cup and a pen as a gift from the PTA. The 8th grade dance is going on right now. And incoming 6th graders who ordered their spirit wear had their items delivered to their home school. Graduation grams were a success for the 8th graders. Thank you to all the volunteers who came in after school to help put them up on the lockers.
Okay. Dugan, Annette.
The Dugan students and staff had a super time at Dugan's Super Mario Field Day on Monday, June 19th. Thank you to the over 100 parents who volunteered their time to make it a wonderful event for everyone and make it a success. Everyone had a perfectly peachy time. This isn't on the liaison report, but I was a volunteer on Monday, and I just wanted to take a note and congratulate the Dugan PTO, because not one child even got hurt on Monday. So that says a lot when there's foam involved. The teachers were wonderful. Miss Purdy and Mr. V got slimed all day, thanks to the slime bucket that you also donated. So I just want you to know firsthand that the kids really had a great time on Monday, all fun, especially the ice pops at the end of the day. Teachers and staff enjoyed a personalized meal with lunch catered by Burger Bros and dessert on Monday, June 19th after Field Day, well deserved, provided by the Dugan PTA. Class parties are scheduled to take place tomorrow, June 21st. All class parents are invited to attend for their child's class to help celebrate the end of school year. Yearbooks have been distributed to the 5th graders and will be distributed to the rest of the grades this week. We got ours already. It's beautiful, all 3 of them. Hopefully all the students enjoy taking a look back on their year at Dugan. School toolbox is available, I can't even believe we're saying this, for next school year. It can be purchased by going to schooltoolbox.com to get the supplies selected by the teachers.
Thank you, Annette. Christina Abbott.
I also have Asha for Aldo. If you want, do you want to read it? Or, oh. Are you reading, Asha? Okay. I'll do Abbott. So thank you, Mr. Perno, for sending your exciting monthly recap. As they're wrapping up the school year, they held end-of-year celebrations for the kindergarteners. Students sang, received their certificates of achievement, and showed off their beautiful artwork. Preschoolers celebrated the end of the year in a variety of ways. They had class ceremonies, parties, and picnics. The kindergartners also visited Asher Homes and Robertsville schools to meet staff and learn more about first grade to get them acclimated and comfortable. And finally, they're closing out the year with a mad science assembly for all students. Hope everybody has a great summer from Abbott.
Okay, I'm reporting out for Aldo for Asher. Mrs. Stilney sent all the things they did in June, so I'll just give you the rundown. June 2nd, the PTA had Philly pretzel distribution and the PTA carnival. 6-6, the schools, oh, the schools, no, okay, no, it's not. 6-8 was the grade 4-5 band concert. On June 12th, the grade 5 had the PTA picnic at Black Bear. On the 13th, the ELC kindergarten visited Asher for a grade 1 meet and greet. On the 14th, the conflict managers visited with the grade 5. On June 15th, grade 5 PTA assembly with the brain show and ice cream treats. On June 16th was Asher Field Day. It has a Disney theme. June 20th is the grade 5 moving up. June 21st is PTA school-wide assembly, and the 22nd is the grade 5 clap out and the last day of school. Happy summer.
Defina.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Nicole Nadell, the PTO president at Defino, for sending me this information. Okay. Defino's fun run, the Dolphin Dash, the most successful year yet, raised over $25,000 thanks to the generous families and corporate sponsors. Plan for the proceeds to install a regulation-sized soccer field over the summer and upgrade the outdoor recess areas with the new equipment, as well as book 4 assemblies next year. Highest earning class in each grade got their choice of pizza party with an administrator, specials teacher, or a kickball gaga game against Dr. Straddick and Mrs. K. Because they hit their goal, the entire Defino staff, students, and families enjoyed a fun afternoon together with delicious ice cream from the Friendly's ice cream truck yesterday. Field Day and the carnival were a blast. So grateful for the 75-plus parent volunteers. We couldn't have done it without you. The 5th graders enjoyed a great picnic at Black Bear Lake, had their moving up ceremony today, and will celebrate with the yearbook signing party tomorrow and end of the year clap out on Thursday. They will be missed. Looking forward to next year.
Jessica, do you also want to do you have anything to report out on scope?
I do. Bear with me while I pull it up. On May 17th, Scope hosted an IEP workshop with Michael Pearson from the ARC and J. Chartwells will be providing a frozen treat to the winning grade levels and all of the Abbott Early Learning Center on Friday, June 16th, in coordination with building administration, to all the grade level winners at the school for the Walk for Change. We are grateful to have collaborated with the ELC. We are also grateful to have collaborated with the ELC PTO to purchase a shade canopy for the preschool playground, which will be great for sunny summer ESY days. Looking forward to working with the special services team in September.
Okay. Old business? New business?
I just wanted to take a moment before the end of the school year and give a big shout out to my 2 bus drivers. My kids are on the Dugan route and the Marlboro Middle School route, and first, our Dugan route takes a second lap around the development to make sure no child was left behind. And almost every morning, our middle school route waits for my kids to put their shoes on and rush out the door. So I just want to give a shout out to our bus drivers who did a tremendous job this year at getting our kids to and from school safely. And I appreciate the unthanked job.
Okay, so next we're going to move to public comment. First on the list, Lauren Palea. Pass. Claire Wang. Okay, sorry. Thank you. Mark Wang. Mega Jane. Ian Hartman.
Kumbaya. This is I've heard a lot of talk about the culture war. This is a one-sided culture war. It's always one side that wants to launch the culture war attacks. The left, we're not interested in culture war. We're interested in class war. We want to unite everyone to fight for a better life for everyone. These are distractions from the real issues facing the people. But we put up a damn good defense. This is a well-funded, well-organized right-wing backlash. On the other hand, we are a coalition of Marlboro alumni, parents, and teachers united with statewide progressive forces. these attack against the visibility of LGBT people is clearly motivated by people's discomfort with that community, not about protecting children. You say that if a kid isn't supported at home, you won't tell the parents. But how can you know how a parent's going to react until after you've told them? That doesn't make any sense. So clearly, this is about silencing people, and this policy, and I've experienced in this area, this treats being trans like a disability. It's not, it's someone's identity. You shouldn't treat it like something you make an IEP plan for. This is a ridiculous policy aimed at stigmatizing being trans. In the future, if we allow teachers to be used as snitches for this, what comes next? Snitching on who students are friends with, or what political beliefs they're expressing, or other ideas that they're expressing? This is part of an overall movement to install a right-wing dictatorship. Long live democracy, down with fascism, freedom to the people!
Next up, Sarah Baum.
Hi, I had a different speech, but I scrapped it because it's kind of pointless now, and I'd rather speak more personally about what just happened. So I'm trans, a Marlboro resident, and a voter. I'm an alumni of this very middle school, and I remember very distinctly the first time one of my friends tried to kill themselves because they were pressured to come out of their parents, and it went badly. We were 11. I was too young for braces, still had too many baby teeth. I hadn't even studied or started preparing for my bat mitzvah. I've heard many people today say kids are too young to know about transness or sexuality, but they're never too young to be abused, or to get murdered by a parent, or to kill themselves. I hear that you think danger will be mitigated through the abuse exception, and I appreciate that, but countless statistics show that CPS fails to act in thousands of cases every year. Even more, the exception puts a vulnerable young child in the position of acquiring a burden of proof, just so the school will not worsen their abuse. Unlike some of the other speakers today, my memories of Marlboro Memorial were not full of support and love. As a queer person, I lived in a constant state of terror. I was verbally, physically, and sexually attacked by my middle school peers, and I saw many friends being physically, verbally, and sexually abused by their parents while in middle school. I reported many of these cases to the school, and in almost every single time, I saw the system fail them. Either due to malice or sickness or trauma or anything else, not all parents are equipped to keep their kids safe. What keeps kids safe is ensuring they have a diverse number of supports, so that no child is a silo, so that even in perfectly healthy situations, kids never even have to fear that they're alone. According to the National Institutes of Health, the #1 enabler of abuse is isolation. Schools have long since been a safe haven for children in unhealthy homes, and teachers are often the first line of defense when it comes to clocking kids who are in abusive situations. This policy will not lead to greater involvement of parents in students' lives. It will only lead to kids having no trusted adult they feel like they can talk to at all. That is why the expression is not, it takes one perfect parent to raise a child. The expression is, it takes a village. Tonight, you've carpet bombed that village. You've left countless children scared and alone. I was once one of them. As a trans person who grew up in these schools, who has lived and has professional experience dealing with trans issues, I really hope you will consider this vote. I don't know what it's like to be a parent. I'm still young, but I don't think any of you know what it's like to be transgender nowadays. And on that note, I'd like to offer myself as a resource to any board member who wants to know more or has questions about that. I don't think you'll take me up on the offer, but maybe someone will surprise me. Maybe one day I can finally step foot in this building and finally feel safe.
Timodoro.
Next up, I have it says Sylvia from Edison.
Hello, my name is Sylvia. I started my social transition 3 months ago. And as a transgender woman, I know it takes confidence, courage, and a feeling of security in one's community to publicly come out as trans. I am fortunate enough to have had all of these things, but trans kids are not as fortunate as I, and they need extra protection, especially in schools. This policy is not protective enough for trans kids, and trans kids should not be forced to be out to their parents, for not every parent is accepting and understanding, and some are outright bigoted and harmful. To force trans kids to be out to anyone socially ostracizes them from places they would otherwise be safe and cause irreparable social and mental harm. But you don't care, as evidenced by your vote tonight. You heard the warnings, and I hope your ignorance weighs upon your conscience. Every board member that voted yes on the policy tonight, and for every transgender person that self-harms or commits suicide in this school, that is a direct product of your neglect and stupidity. Their blood is on your hands.
Next, Ryan Wasserman.
Hi, everyone. I remember being here, exactly here, discovering my passions, fostering interests, building my education. I also remember the memories that were a little more complicated. My time at this school was monumental in personal discovery. I, however, often faced bullying, harassment, intimidation, fear, simply for being who I am. I did not feel comfortable with who I was at this school. And it wasn't because I didn't understand myself at my age, but because I did not feel safe enough to express it. I always knew who I was, even in Miss Piernick's second grade class, all the way back then, all the way to here. And nothing about that has changed. And I am gay, and I have a rumor. Being queer, gay, trans is not a disease, a disorder. It is not a trend. It is not something to cure. It is something to embrace. If a child finally feels comfortable enough to express who they are to a trusted school professional, the last thing they need is for more instability, more uncertainty. The child will know when they feel comfortable and when it's the right time to open their world up and let their loved ones in. This current policy calls itself family-centered. But our schools need to be student-centered, and it's impossible for a family member to know, to understand, or to dictate what their child's identity is. Children, although still developing, are their own people with histories, traumas, beliefs, livelihoods, joys, all separate from their parents or guardians. It is up to the student and the student alone to know who they are. I understand that every parent wants success for their child, but this is truly not the way to go. Let children focus on academics, their school clubs, making friendships. The school and parents' involvement infringes and inhibits any path to success for that. If a student has gone through their long and difficult process of coming out, they know who they are. And any parent or school member's negation of that will not change who they are. Being queer is not political, it is not harmful, it is a fact, and it's beautiful. I urge the Board of Education to not adopt this policy, but it already happened. Listen to the community, the majority of the people in this room and outside. I personally am back here in these schools right now because I know that if I were still here as a student, I would hope that someone would come back and speak for me with a voice that I could not have. Thank you.
Next, Lauren Albrecht.
Good evening, and thanks for this opportunity. I won't take much of your time. I'm here on behalf of Garden State Equality,
And on behalf of myself, I had a speech prepared, but I think I'm going to spend my time instead dispelling the insane amount of misinformation I've heard passed on this microphone tonight. It's crazy. The things that I've heard tonight, let's start with Gays Against Groomers. That's not a grassroots organization, it's a PAC, just so we're clear. There is no 80% detransition rate. These are all readily available facts at your disposal. And also, I'd like to remind everybody in this room that the client of the public school is not the individual parent, but it is the public. And that's proven by the fact that you receive $7.4 million in tax money, which allows me to be here tonight, just so we're clear. If you don't think that we belong here, don't accept state funding. I do believe that everybody here is driven by the desire to do right by their kids, but this is not it. This is not it. As the kids here have shown you tonight, we don't want to be here either. We don't want to have to be here either. It is your job, by the way. It is your job to be here. You ran for election. You were elected to represent the entire township. We don't want to have to be here either. But I'd like to state for the record that we do not agree with this policy. I do not agree with this policy. And as so succinctly stated by everybody else in this room that spoke on the microphone, I really hope that it doesn't have the adverse effects that we know it's going to have. I really, really hope that. The DOE didn't issue this guidance on a whim. It wasn't just like, hey, let's just, put this in there. It's after years and years of study. It's after studies that are readily available to you. There's not a single benefit to this policy at all. So I'm just going to ask you to please look within and think about who will be benefited from this. It's not going to be the kids. That's all.
Anthony Jankowski. Deborah Van Edem. Dara Eni.
I'm just going to start by reminding everybody that this is a K-8 district. And
Mrs. Eni, just speaking to the mic, please.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I'm going to remind everybody that this is a K-8 school district. And while I fully believe in freedom of speech, I think that this type of demonstration that we have here tonight belongs in a high school board meeting, not here. Back, see what I mean? Back in 2017 or 18, Strauss Esme put out new guidelines for this transgender policy. These were guidelines, not laws. I was on the policy committee at that time. Myself, as well as several others who were on the committee, were appalled at the recommendations to keep pertinent information from parents about children as young as kindergarten, especially when it came to things like children who wanted to change their pronouns, their names, their genders. So I heard a lot of people referring to the policy changes tonight as a circus that you guys started. This circus started when in, let's say, 2017 or 18, when they wanted us to not only not, to keep this secret to the point where what we were supposed to do or tell the teachers to do was that, like, if a child changed their name, they were allowed to write their new name on their work, but then they had to change the name when they were going to show the parents the work when they came up for conferences. So they were going to make copies of everything with the child's given name and the child's chosen name so that the parents didn't know what's going on. And hiding pertinent information from parents is completely unacceptable in any school district. You can't keep information from parents. These are minors. You guys took time to put in work and to do research and to figure out a way to discuss this with the children and the parents and to bring families together. And I think you did a really good job. And I know of several teachers who were very uncomfortable back when this policy first came out, when they were told that they had to keep
Timodoro.
Next, I'm sorry if I mispronounced, Iris Nugan of Marlboro. Please correct me if I'm wrong, sorry.
You're good, it's Win.
Okay.
I'm also winging it. I want to address one thing the board has said tonight about collaborative dialogue with a question. What if we ask a kid when they'll feel safe coming out to their parents, and they say it's during high school, when they want to ask their parents permission to start HRT? What if it's when they're 18 and they're in college? What if that child just wants to keep their head down until they're an adult, until they've moved out and can pursue their happiness on their own? Will their schools listen to them and collaborate, or will this dialogue simply veto that student's wishes? I want to believe the board when they say that they don't want kids to be endangered through outing. I want to believe the board when they claim that kids will still have a voice that will be heard. But within this framework, wherever there's a difference in perspective, there is eventually going to be a moment in a guidance counselor's office where someone's wishes are going to be overridden. And I think everyone in this room knows that that party will always, always be the student. My parents put 4 kids through the school district, and in those 20 years, they can count the number of conversations they've had with a guidance counselor on one hand. How can those counselors possibly judge whether or not there's a significant danger in coming out to a parent with more accuracy than the student who has lived with them all their life? I'm able to stand in front of you today as an alumnus of this district and a trans person who is out and happy because I was lucky enough to be able to choose when to confide in my parents on my own terms, at a point in my life where I was prepared for every outcome and supported by other people who love me. All I want is for every single student who thinks they might be trans to be afforded that same care, protection, and respect regardless of where that path takes them. Board members, parents, community, I'm going to leave you with this. I remember what it's like to be a scared trans kid, and because of that, I can promise you this. Your trans children will be too scared of the consequences of being outed to even hint to their teachers that they could be trans. And that means that they'll turn to strangers or to the internet for help instead of the parents and educators with vested interest in their safety and happiness, exposing them to far greater danger than they would have faced by simply discovering themselves patiently and discreetly at school with their teachers and counselor support. All you are doing here tonight for our children with this policy is closing a door. I know you're concerned. My parents were concerned too. But the reality is that you can't possibly protect your children if they don't trust you. And they will never trust you if you don't trust them enough to tell you about these things when they're actually ready. I yield the rest of my time to the chair.
Next up, Danielle Belomo.
Good evening. I'm going to do this right. I'm Danielle. I'm from Marlboro. I live here. I pay my taxes here, and I have 3 children who are students here. I'm speaking tonight because I am confused on so many levels. For starters, I'm confused why activists who do not live in our town wearing pornographic images on their clothes, where there were children present here tonight, are allowed here at a meeting to discuss my child's elementary school curriculum. Doesn't seem appropriate. But even more so, I am confused because from where I'm sitting, it seems that the LGBTQ community is asking to be included. I've heard the word inclusive so many times tonight. So again, I am confused. What the LGBTQ community is asking for is for my children to go to school and call you by one name, have you in their bathroom, play sports according with whom you identify as, but then you are asking for parents not to be included. I have no fancy women's studies degree, gender equality background to wave in your face, but I do have an extensive community volunteer background and 10 years of being a parent. How do you want me to have your biologically male child in my Girl Scout troop and not ask you as the parent for dues? How do you want me to coach a biologically female on my recreational male soccer team? How can a parent sign up and be involved in their child's life if they don't even know what team you think that you should be signed up for? Will these children use one name and identify as one gender in school, but play sports and activities based on their biological gender while they work on becoming ready to come out to their parents? And if so, how is my child going to be helped to navigate this situation? Will there be a HIB case opened if Jessica in school is back to John at soccer and my son calls him Jessica? Will he be accused of maliciously outing his peer? Or worse yet, will these students be too petrified and live a secluded life inside their own home, unable to be an active member of their town community with their friends? Who will be responsible for changing a child's name on a test back to John from Jessica? The teachers paid to teach my child math, reading, and writing? All of this is nonsense. The LGBTQ community is demanding so much to happen within the walls of our schools, but yet you have no plan as to what the answer is to all of these real-life situations, had revised 5756 not been passed. Most importantly, my children are here for an education. I pay Marlboro taxes for an education. In my opinion, even the revision of 5756 is not enough. My child do not need to worry about their classmates' gender before they even know their multiplication times tables. This is what will happen if you allow a biologically male fifth grader in the same bathroom as my biologically female kindergartner.
Timodoro.
Next, August to Osprey Court, August Rehoyas. Sorry if I mispronounced that.
Sorry, guys. Good evening, everyone, the board, and everyone who showed up to this meeting. It's pretty clear that this is something that a lot of people care about, whether that's for the right reasons or the wrong reasons. I'd like to start out by saying that I'm not an activist. I live here. I'm from Marlboro. I went to Marlboro Middle School, and I'm not here from out of town to try and convince you to transgenderify your children. I'm here as a citizen of this community, someone who went to this school, to say that, children need guidance and protection, but there are people, individuals, who are more than capable of defining themselves. If a child has chosen not to come out to their family as transgender, they most likely have done so for their own safety. When I came to terms with the fact that I'm trans, the first person that I felt comfortable coming out to was my history teacher, Mr. Uplinger. He was the first adult in my life to recognize me for the person that I truly was and always has been, supporting me in ways that my family would not, and many families in this room likely would not. Every student deserves to have a teacher who can make such a huge difference in their life. But that opportunity no longer exists for those students. I know with 100% confidence that if my parents would have been told that I would never have come out to anyone, and that fear, it lives within you. It never goes away. And I don't think you can claim to represent our interests when you're not listening to us as trans people. We were trans children. We know what it feels like to be on the other side of that. And you will never know that. And that's okay. But it's important to listen to the community that you are actually trying to legislate for. We are people. We deserve agency to come out on our own time and to not have to live in fear of whether or not someone will know. We deserve safety. We deserve love. And I'm so sorry to all of these students who are currently in school. Thank you.
Next, Dan Finney.
Good evening, Dan Finney. I actually live in Aberdeen. I'm the father of 5 children. My youngest is 10 years old. Thank you very much for this common sense policy change. That said, it doesn't go nearly far enough, in my opinion, that 1 or 2 children can co-opt the bathroom of the opposite sex, and that all the rest of the kids should go down to the nurse's office if they're uncomfortable is really crazy. And the sports policy likewise. I just don't understand how this policy ever got implemented a few years ago. How in the world did adults allow that to be in our schools across the state? This is K-8, K through 8. And it's been said many times this evening, but I still think it seemed to be lost on quite a few people. This is not about equity, diversity, inclusion that I've heard so many times in the last couple of years. And I think these words have been hijacked along with the rainbow. God-given rainbow. It's not about the safe.
Can you please stop
We're not
calling
gonna call
out?
out.
Sir, hang on one second. If you continue to call out, I've made this warning before, other officials have made this warning. If you continue to call out and disrupt the meeting, we're going to ask that you be removed. We don't want that to happen, but consider yourself warned. Please. Thank you. We all sat and listened respectfully to everybody who was up to that microphone, and everybody deserves our attention. Okay.
And I think most of us know, and the board has perceived, that this is not about a safe place from parents. And I think that's a false argument. It's not about equal rights either, but it is about special rights, as we know. And that wasn't enough either. So now it's turned into a demand that people of faith or values differing from the LGBTQAI+++ whatever alphabet soup agenda, if you don't agree with that, you don't have the right to object. You don't have a right to object to the overt indoctrination, the grooming, over-sexualization, and the exposure to the efforts to normalize a wide array of what is really deviant behaviors. Let's talk about each one of those letters. What is it really? This is about a psychological need to be validated. That's one thing that it is. And that's understandable.
Tomadoro.
Thank you, board.
Next up, Alice Dean.
Hello, my name is Alice Dean, and I live in Colts Neck, and I have a child in 7th grade, Cedar Drive Middle School, and we will be in the Freehold Regional School District. She's 14, and if I say black, she'll say white, and if I say white, she'll say black. That's just the way they are. They're kids. And the nurse has to call me when she needs a Tylenol. And if I don't get back to them, they can't give it to her, and so they'll constantly call me. But that means that kids, until they're 18, they can't get a tattoo, they can't drive, they can't smoke, they can't drink. There is, well, they can drive a little before 18, but when they're in middle school, no. But they need our protection, and the problem is that this is a very dangerous narrative. If they go down this path and people are agreeing and saying, okay, it's about a feeling and you feel this way, they can get into taking the puberty blockers, which will lead to sterilization. They used to use those for pedophiles. It's the same drug for sterilization. And it's important to realize that we're going along with a narrative that can be very destructive, and there are many people that are now detransitioning, like Chloe Cole, who had a very tragic case. At 15, she had a double mastectomy, and now there's Layla Jane, and there's people talking about it all over the place. So I think it's important to understand that, why we're so concerned about this. And I, applaud you for passing this parental rights. However, I too feel that it hasn't gone far enough. And I'm concerned that someone has to really counsel a child before they tell the parents. And then there's a whole part about the bathroom use. And they're really designed, urinals are for boys, and girls really can't use them. And I don't understand why there has to be an identification with the bathroom. That doesn't make sense to me. But this is also about rights, about teachers' rights. Someone started saying that. Does a teacher have to go along with this narrative, and they're told now to lie to the parents and to lie to the children? I mean, I don't think that's right. And I'm an educator myself, and I haven't had that situation, but I'm not going to do that. That's a violation of my rights and my freedom to be able to hold up a standard and to tell the truth to these kids, because again, the tragedies of the people that are coming back and said, why wasn't there an adult who told me something, or said no, or told me the truth? And so I think it's a very important thing to remember. And the other thing is about sports. Woman is 2/3 the strength of a man. So where are the women's rights out here? The women yelling, I need equality in sports, because that'll go away. But
Time is up. Next, Robin Harrington.
Okay, I'm super nervous. I am a teacher. I'm a high school teacher. I've lived here since I was 3 years old. So I've had a lot of kids come out to me before, trans, gay, everything. I want to share stories that a lot of people aren't sharing, is that a lot of them are very confused. And I have a problem with the confusion because as some parents aren't accepting, neither is the LGBT community. Me, I played soccer. I was on varsity sports at Marlboro High School. My friends used to call me a dude. They say I sit like a dude. I've had students say that about me. My friends call me on Father's Day because they're like, nah, you're a dude. I'm a girl. And by today's standards, they would have told me that you were talking about is to take the Lupron, or puberty blockers, and to have my breasts removed. Okay? I was a tomboy. And I don't think that's very accepting to not accept that there are masculine females, like I was, and feminine males. I don't understand what is going on with this identity thing. I was just a masculine female. That's it. I don't know why there has to be, because if anything, that's actually affirming societal standards of what is a female and what is a male, instead of just letting kids be awkward and not know, I don't know, try new things. Now you're putting a label on everything, which I think is a huge problem, because a lot of these kids say, well, I don't look like the girls on TikTok who, honestly, middle schoolers look like they're 20-something years old. And then they think, well, if I don't look like that kind of a female, maybe I'm not a female. That's not okay with me. I'm sorry, I don't like the crop tops. I'm gonna say this right now, and everything that. Kids are way over-sexualized, but some girls like me did not look like that. That didn't mean I wasn't a female. And what you're doing is you're encouraging societal standards of what females are supposed to look like. And that wasn't me. I wore Umbro shorts and Samba sneakers because I was an athletic girl. You could not catch me in a dress, okay? But the puberty blockers I would have put on by today's standards, I wouldn't have had my 10-year-old child. Okay, there are some things that are not reversible. If you want to be accepting that there's masculine, female. I wear suits all the time. I love menswear watches. I dress my daughter in loafers, and I did shop in the section, the boys section for her. She also wears dresses. That's it. Stop putting labels on things and saying, you're this if you don't look like this or anything else. Just stop. That's being accepting. Not saying you're this or you don't fit these standards, so now you're that. And I tell my daughter every day, I'm like, are you proud to be exactly how you are, whether you think you're prettier or not from somebody else? And she's like, yeah, absolutely. Stop making kids choose sides.
Pomodoro.
Next up, Ala Kozo.
I'm
sorry.
Oh, it's okay, no problem. Actually, it's very interesting what she just said because it's such a true statement. Very liberal comedian Bill Maher, he said, "Thanks God I don't live as a child today because when I was 7 years old, I wanted to be a pirate. Probably today they would just cut my leg and poke my eye, according to today's beliefs. Because today, whatever you are, let's just do it. You know, let's just do it." So exactly. What it is a lot of girls are very masculine. I was actually one of them also. I never really wear dresses till now. Always pants, you know, shorts like that. But I'm not a man. I know I'm a woman. And so the stereotypes, that's exactly what she was talking about. That's powerful. But kids, we're talking about kids here. Kids who are not even in high school, first of all, they're gullible. They very much can be pursued to anything. And if you keep telling them that, oh, you know what, you like color blue, and you like to play soccer, probably you're a boy. Huh? They're gullible. They just might believe you. And with all of this on top of everything else, you decided that you have to actually keep all of this out of the parents. That's just a cherry on the cake with what we're going on right now. That's interesting for me that actually a lot of people here were talking about outing them to parents, like parents are enemies. All of a sudden, we actually feel that parents are enemies of the children. How do you like that? I actually always thought that teachers, schools are partners, only partners for parents, because parents are the ones who are raising their children. They decided where they live, what they eat, what they wear, which school they go to, and so forth and so on. But all of a sudden, they're not supposed to be involved in certain things, and the school's supposed to actually keep the secrets out of them. I don't see the logic here. I don't understand how anybody can see that logic. Actually, very interesting enough, that I think in any civilized society up to today, it was always actually presumed that parents are the ones who are responsible for children, and they are deciding factor what's going on, and they have to be informed. Everything is going on in their lives, I think. Well, there are some exceptions, maybe in history, when it was not the case, and I give you some of them. Third Reich. In Third Reich, the state, the bureaucrats, decided the children don't belong to the parents. They belong to the state. So the parents were supposed to raise children to become the soldiers of the Reich. Well, I don't think we want to follow that example and taking parents away from the children I'm bringing. Another example I'll give you, it's my country, the Soviet Union. I was born in the Soviet Union. I was raised there. The parents had no involvement in our education, zero. Everybody has the same schools everywhere. I think we don't want to take this path. I think it's wrong. And I applaud the board for doing something right.
We have 10. Next, Ron Mack.
Hello, thank you to the school board. Please continue to stand for parents' rights. That's
You're elected to this very special position. It's very powerful. Thank you. Everything here tonight is in your first sentence. Because Marlboro Public School District is a pre-K through 8 district with no high school. That's why we're sitting here. And your job is to protect these children. I want to tell you, there's so many experts here tonight with such qualifications. I want to tell you I am an expert in pre-K through 8 because I have 6 grandchildren. And 2 days ago, we got together and we had cheeseburgers and they did somersaults in the lawn. And I know when you public speak, you're supposed to know your audience. Well, my little audience of pre-K through 8 grandchildren have no idea what this is all about. This has nothing to do with their world. Please protect your family and these kids from this. I want to say too that where is this headed? Who's I can't read. Who's legal counsel? Outside counsel legal? Is somebody here? Oh, hi. Where is this headed? It's been mentioned a couple times. This is a brand new thing. We've been 350 years in New Jersey, and now we're going to change it right now? We're going to change it because that didn't work 350 years with parents being responsible for the kids. Where it's changing so rapidly is there is child mutilations occurring to minors. Those minors at 13 years old become adults. We're talking minors. This whole thing tonight's about minors. Those children, when they become adults, are suing a whole host of people. You can Google this. This is no secret. And the legal ramifications of it, you're not here just to analyze what's going on. I designed aerospace assembly lines around the world. You're here not just to analyze what's going on. You're here to project and protect every one of these people. And I read in here that the school counselors on page 3, the other district professionals, every one of these people are giving advice to these minors that are going to turn adults. And are we really, can you guarantee everybody sitting here and all these people that are employed by the school, the bus drivers, the cooks, that they are not going to have legal indemnification as this is playing out? It's a $2.1 billion industry right now. It's changing. You need to protect and you need to project this through where this is going. Thank you.
Next, Ethan Lukowiak. Oh, that wasn't. Okay. Andrea Caparelli. Eileen Stoll. Marina Macram. Francis Bungai. Angela Lee.
I just wanted to make it lower.
Should please just state your name for the record also. Thank you.
Okay. I don't want to mess this up. I'm too short. There we go. Okay. Can you hear me okay? Thank you. Okay, happy Pride to all the queers and allies. I wore this bright, big rainbow to help bring some joy and smiles here. The tension here is so difficult, and I acknowledge that. You know, we're here, and like I said, I really wanted to bring some joy and smiles because we are here out of love for our community, for the LGBT community and the LGBT youth. We need pride, and we need our community to be supporting LGBT youth now more than ever, because this year there has literally been over 500 anti-trans bills created in 2023 alone. I'm hearing words like pornographic and groomer and detransitioning. What is pornographic about the image that you see? Flags, colors, hearts, rainbows. These words that are being used are so insulting, and I truly wish that you had shut some of those words down, but I'm going to go back to my points. In response to some of the comments that I've heard tonight about why are these outsiders here, there's so many reasons we're here. Whether folks behind me live in Marlboro or not, they pay state taxes, which I heard someone else say you have $7.4 million in state taxes that are for this school. They also pay the state taxes connected to your school, your funding. They have a right to be here. If out-of-town residents are allowed to be in the building and allowed to speak, the group here should be respected and their comments should be respected. The group here is here to support trans students. They need our supports, okay? I don't have biological children, but I am a teacher in Monmouth County, and I have 100 students, and many of whom are queer and trans. And the number of queer teachers that exist is so low. I'm the only out teacher in my school building. The folks here had to come out to share our lived experience of living as queer and living as trans adults, because the trans students that these policies are going to affect are going to be, we want them to become adults. That's why we are here. That is literally why we are here. There's so much to say, and I've got 40 seconds left. Okay. This is not about secrets. This is not about taking any of the parents' rights away. What this is taking about our students' rights to their privacy away. This is not about transparency. It's about real life experiences and real research. If you look up the Trevor Report and the ACLU, you'll find the numbers. The numbers don't lie. 1 in 3 trans and non-binary youth come from accepting homes. 1 out of 3. That means 2 out of 3 non-binary and trans kids don't come from accepting homes. That's why we are here. We hear the parents here.
Timodoro.
Thank you.
Next, Brendan McAvoy. Francesca Dono.
Hi. So, I've never been to a board meeting before. I believe I'm supposed to talk to you guys. That's what I'm going to do. My name is Francesca Dono. I live in Marlboro for 7 years. I have 2 children in the school system. To the dismay of my husband, I am overly involved in my children's lives in this school district. I am a PTA board member for 3+ years, and I am so involved in my child's lives that it is ridiculous. What I want to say is that I grew up in Brooklyn in the 1980s where there was discrimination, real discrimination, in our schools, in our community, in the people that walked into my home as the daughter of 2 immigrants in this country. And as a first-generation American, I choose to come to Marlboro because of its school system, because of the people in this community, because what was important to me was that the values that I have for my children are enforced within the school, and the parents and the people that they will be involved with every day in their extracurricular activities. Now, I'm not going to get into a whole discussion on the LGBTQ and the movement. The reason I've never been to a board meeting is because I have been to every election, and I have placed my vote as an American and as a resident of this state for the people that I feel will make the best decision for all of the students in this district, not just mine. I raise my children to be kind, to be accepting, because that's who I am as an adult. And I'm sorry for anyone in this room, anyone seated behind me, to my left or my right, that has ever felt that they could not be themselves in their home, in their town, in this country, in the world. That is a terrible, terrible thing to have to live through. But there is one title that I have, and one title alone for the last 10 years that I identify as, and it is written on my shirt, and that title is Mom. Okay? And I will ferociously protect my children through every stage of their life and make sure that when I send them out to the world to the teachers, the principals, the Board of Ed, whoever, that they are being taught not only academically, but life skills at an age-appropriate level, and that there are certain conversations that remain in the home. And I know that you all and the schools have processes in place where if you feel a child is truly in danger, you will take action. And that is the only time that you should take action, because you are probably all parents yourselves. So thank you.
Timodoro.
One more. Last on the list is Angelique Volpe.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to be brief because I know you guys are all tired. I just want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart. You guys have a very, very difficult job. I can't imagine all the countless hours you guys put into this community. By the way, I'm from Colts Neck. I forgot to mention that. I'm not from here, but I came out to support the parents, the loving parents in this district that are just trying to regain their parents' rights. And like I was saying, I do appreciate all the countless hours that you put in to fight for our parents' rights, and I do appreciate that. Secondly, I do want to apologize for, the threats that, you received. I thought it was a disgusting, thing to say at this meeting, because you guys do work hard and you don't get paid for this job. And it was an unacceptable thing to do. Also, I want to let you know I am from New Jersey Project and New Jersey Fresh Face Schools and Colts Neck Fresh Face Schools. And you just made about 20,000 parents very happy tonight that you revised this policy and you gave us our parents' rights. I'm hoping that Colts Neck does the same thing in about 2 weeks. And from what I understand, the other two districts also revised the policy tonight as well. So I just want to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for restoring parents' rights here. Thank you very much.
That is it for my list.
Executive session resolution. Be it resolved that in accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, the Marlboro Township Board of Education shall conduct a closed executive session pursuant to the exception prescribed by NJSA 10-4-12 for the purpose of discussing matters of attorney-client privilege, MCAA negotiations. It is anticipated that the length of time of this executive session will be 60 minutes and that action will not be taken in public after the executive session. Be it further resolved that the minutes of the executive session be released when the need for confidentiality in accordance with NJSA 10-4-12 no longer applies. Any discussion? Do I have a second? All in favor? Nobody opposed? We're good.